Hey, Spuddies! Potato Big Whiskey here, and welcome to Europa Universalis 5, the latest game from Paradox Tinto on the Clausewitz engine, published by Paradox Interactive, who were kind enough to sponsor this video. There will be a link in the description for you to check the game out yourself, but man oh man, I have to say, they did not have to sponsor me to get me to play this game. Because let me tell you, it's a banger. So I gotta say, this is probably the most I've been addicted to a game in a while. I think I spent a couple hundred hours playing just the preview build. But let's go ahead and jump into the game. So I was originally, when I was pitching the game to my audience, people wanted me to play as Ireland and do sort of a tutorial series. The problem with playing Ireland in Europa Universalis 5 is that it's a very, very hard experience. Now, it wasn't so hard a couple of patches ago, but the game has been getting updates, behind the scenes sort of thing. And it wasn't so bad a couple of days ago, but now it's really tough. It's quite difficult to play as Ireland. So I was thinking I should play a different country. Now, Europa Universalis 5 is a game that spans, I think 500 years of history starting around the 1300s. And it sort of models and simulates loosely, the Renaissance, exploration of the New World, the rise of empires, revolutions, all these sorts of eras and ages or phases of history. The rise of professional armies and all this kind of cool stuff. And we could, in theory, if we wanted to, we could play as an Irish tribe, or we could play as a Earl of Ireland. There was the kind of like the difference between the two is the Earls are kind of a little bit more loyal to the Crown of England, whereas the tribes are a little bit more loyal to the Irish themselves. And I think there is a really interesting game in there. But it's only a couple hours of gameplay before England, if the 100 Years' War finishes up early, and then England can pay its full attention to Ireland, it goes really badly for you. So it's a little bit RNG, it's a little bit dangerous. So I think we're gonna hold off on this for our first series, even though it is really fun to play in here and do all this sorts of cool stuff. And there's actually so many really interesting places to play. You could play as Mansa Musa down here in the Malian Empire, and let me tell you, these guys make money. Okay, they have so much money. It's a really fun economic game. They have some really cool bonuses, and you can do some really cool stuff playing as the Malian Empire, expanding out, and eventually Spain and Portugal, they'll start colonizing down the coast here, and then you'll have some interactions with them. You can focus on building up your empire, integrating it, or expanding it. A lot of really cool stuff. I kind of like playing as the Malian Empire. It's an interesting one. Now, if you want to have a kind of a more interesting, it depends on the type of game that you want and the experience that you want to go for. Playing as China, I don't even know where to begin to explain the madness that is this game. This game is crazy. I've had so much fun playing as Spain. I've had a ton of fun playing in Ireland or as Hungary. I've had a lot of fun playing as the Ottomans. I haven't played as Egypt, but I'm pretty sure they're overpowered. Let's just smash the random country button until I get a country that looks like it's fun to play. And how I judge and whether or not a country is fun to play is based on the amount of country events and the country bonuses. So anyone that has 0, I'm whatever, dude. But the bishopric of Chur, they've got a couple bonuses. Another good way to do this is to sort this list. Venice is so fun to play, dude. It is so crazy. You can create these little, if you take little bites out of people or buy land from them, you can create this crazy Mediterranean trading empire. Super cool. You can kind of do the same thing as Genoa, just taking these little treaty ports from people. The Golden Horde is weird, because they're an army-based country. They don't actually care about having land. They care about having an army, which is really weird, but also kind of interesting. God, my heart just wants to play in the Malian Empire. I think, you know what? I'm going to play Mali. Mali's one of my favorite civs in, all different civ games. Let's play Mali. The vibes are right for Mali today. Now, when you first load up the game, you're going to get an agenda. It's going to give you a bunch of historical context. You're going to have all of these things that you can click through and learn about. The game has a surprisingly good learning walkthrough. Now, I think I accidentally disabled missions, but it's whatever. We're going to handle all that on ourselves. So there is so much that we need to explain about Europa Universalis 5 before we can even begin to tell the narrative of the rise of the Malian Empire that we're going to be building here. So let's see if we can clear out some of these little alerts up the top. So this one right here is just this screen again. So I'm going to go ahead and right click this so it doesn't come back. And then we've got control groups that we can set up. I'm going to go ahead and right click that to get rid of that as well. Some of these are relatively easy for us to deal with. We've got a possible reform here. These are the many estates that make up your country. You've got the crown, which represents you as the player. You've got the Umara, which is the noble estate. You can tell it's the noble because it's this blue triangle with the castle and the flag. This symbol will be the same in every country, but the name will be different based on the culture of your country. Similarly, this here is the clergy. The nobles represent, well, the nobility, the rich people, the people who own land, the people who have sort of destined by God to control things. And the clergy sort of represent the religious interest, like your scholars, your imams, your priests, your clergymen, people who learned men of significant political position. Then you've got your burghers, which are called the Wangara here in Mali. These represent the people that live in cities. They're craftsmen, politicians, everything that lives in a city is a burgher, basically. Just to kind of simplify the thought. The commoners are the people who work the land under the structures of your government. And then the tribes are kind of like the independent peoples that kind of maybe live on the margins of society. Maybe they're not tied to a specific area, but they're not. I guess the simplest way to describe the tribe is they are people that are not yet under the fold of your empire. You might imagine that the tribes are kind of not yet affected by the political power of the land. And so you can't really tax them. You can give them privileges to make them happier so they don't do any blah, 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 blah. But like, for example, I can increase the tribal levies, which will give me more tribal levies, which is nice. But this comes at a cost, right? So if I were to enact this, I will lose some legitimacy, and legitimacy is important because the higher my legitimacy, the better, right? The more crown power I have. Remember, crown power represents me. The pop leave threshold will be lower, meaning populations are more happily going to leave rebellions, right? Not join rebellious movements. A great power score is useful for being a great power. Being a great power isn't that good. It kind of sucks because it has this expected cost of court, which eats up a lot of money. But there are a lot of advantages to it as well in terms of diplomatic capacity, all sorts of great things. It is not that bad to be a great power, but personally, I hate the cost of court part. Speaking of the cost of court, this is our economy sheet. What I like to do is I like to max out the cost of my legitimacy. Having really high legitimacy is important because having a low legitimacy can trigger all sorts of bad/negative events, which I really don't want to deal with. And there's a few other things that we should get a handle on. In particular, I'm going to go ahead and disable my granaries because they cost a lot of money. In terms of upkeep, right? Granaries take a certain amount of, where can I show you this? They take a certain amount of masonry to maintain, and masonry is a good that can be produced by your country. And right now we want to maximize the amount of money flowing through my economy directly into my coffers so that I can shape my country. Now, because we're playing as Mali, we're going to have a lot of gold production, which means we're not going to be able to mint a lot of gold before we start to get inflation. And inflation is bad, so we're going to want to just not mint money. Well, we can mint a tiny bit, but we want to be careful. Okay, so we've taken care of a few early game ideas and concepts. Let's go ahead and open up our research. Now, proximity cost is an incredibly useful ability. And the basic idea of how research works is you have ages, you have institutions, and you have technologies. So ages group institutions together, and institutions are made up of technologies. So for example, we have over here the institution of, let me see here, where's legalism? So each of these top nodes here, like agriculture, maybe that was feudalism, quarrying, maybe that was legalism. This over here, meritocracy, is meritocracy. We don't have that one yet, so we can't research it. And this is in the age of traditions, okay? And you've got these sort of institutions, and the number of institutions you have increases the amount of monthly research you have. The amount of monthly research you have determines the advances that you can obtain. or the rate at which you can obtain advances. So for example, you can see here is an advance called Nomadic Traditions, which will lower our proximity cost by 5%. So if I were to take that one, what is proximity cost? Well, proximity cost is basically how good or how effectively we can spread the institutional power of our country. So if you imagine, it's relatively easy to maintain the institutional power of our capital city. You can see here, we've got a proximity cost in Niani of 100%, or we've got 100% proximity here, meaning we're able to get the maximum amount of control. Higher control gets us more tax. Basically, if you make 100 gold in a place, but you have 0 control, you get 0 gold. If you have 100 gold in a place and 10% control, you get 10 gold. If you have 10 gold in a place and 100% control, you get 10 gold. So basically, control is everything. Control is huge. And since proximity gives control, that means proximity is also everything. It is so useful. And proximity radiates outwards with a penalty. So you can see the distance between this place and my capital, if we hover over it here, you can see it has a proximity cost through land of 40. Now, it's going along a river, which lowers that. It is farmlands, which increases it. We have culturally a focus towards land, which lowers it. And having a lot of tribesmen increases the proximity cost, and having a lot of development lowers the proximity cost. And there's lots of different ways that we can lower the proximity cost. We can, for example, build a road between these two places. If I click on Niani and I click on the road builder, I could build a road here, and I can focus on either travel time between two locations. So you can see like that's a way more, you can see kind of like the arrow is very direct, versus like maybe it might be cheaper. There might be like cheaper paths depending, like if I click on the cost of a path might not necessarily be the exact same as the, as the time, right? So these are good. So you can see like if I go based on minimizing the proximity cost, you can see the path curves to the left there. But if I go based on minimizing the cost, it curves slightly to the right because it's found like cheaper terrain to go through. And so basically, one of the most important things that you're going to be doing as a player is trying to increase your control, thus decrease the proximity cost of getting to locations in your empire. I kind of want you to imagine like a cone or like a bucket being filled. And by lowering the cost of travel in our empire, of moving institutional power around our empire, we get more stuff in our bucket. But that's only one layer of the bucket, because like, oh man, are we breaking out paint already before we've even unpaused the game? I think we are. Okay, I'm going to give you like the really high level overview. So I want you to imagine that the economy in this game has a bunch of layers, okay? Like an ogre or an onion. So one of the layers is control / proximity. Control and proximity aren't exactly the same, but they're deeply related, so I'm going to group them. And then you have your tax base, and then you have your demographics and your tax rates, and then you have your tax efficiency. Now, as a general guide, these are all multiplied by each other. And generally speaking, the lower you go down this, imagine this like a pyramid, right? The lower you go down this, the kind of more important it is. But it's not a super hard thing. It's not a super hard thing, okay? You've got your control and your proximity times your tax base times your demographics and tax rates times your tax efficiency. So these are the layers of your economy, and this determines your income. Now, there's also trade that we need to talk about too, but let's just talk about like the theory behind why we're going to be doing some of the things that we're going to be doing. So basically, since Niani has a lot of control, it's a good idea for me to increase the tax base, because having a high tax base in a location with a high control means that I am able to access 100% of this tax base. Then my tax rates, or rather, then the demographics of this location distributes the share of the tax base. So you can see here, I hovered off it there. So nobles are getting 33% of the tax base. The Wangara, the burghers, are getting 29%. The commoners are getting 12%. And the priests are getting 11%. Okay, so that is the distribution of the tax base. That's the demographics section. And then the tax rate is how much of these distributions that I am able to collect. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on auto taxing. So basically the game will try to keep my estates in my country at a level of 50% happiness and just like automatically adjust the tax rate based on their happiness. Let me go ahead and I should probably allow a month to go by so that we can show these numbers reflecting. And then the next layer up from that, remember, was tax efficiency. Now, tax efficiency is this number up here. Basically, tax efficiency is one of the strongest modifiers in the entire game because all of your costs are calculated, like the cost of our court over here is calculated as 15% of our tax base, which means that we're going to have to pay 15%, right? This number right here. Don't worry about all the stuff below that shows what this number is. All we care about right now is this number. In order to maintain the legitimacy of our empire, we need to spend 15% of the tax base of our country on, our royal court, right? The court, like maintaining, household, soldiers, clergy, gentry, harems, all this sort of stuff, like maintaining appearances. So, and since tax efficiency doesn't increase your tax base, it's really good because it decreases the ratio, effectively speaking, of your costs to your income. So tax efficiency is super useful for that reason. But at the same time, you really want to get your tax rates up. Like, for example, right now, we're taxing our Wangara at 22.1%. And that's the maximum that we can tax them right now. And that's because there's control over monetary policy and treasury rights, lowering the maximum tax that we can extract from them. Similarly, the commoners, right, we're getting 40% of their income. And there's things that we can do to make that easier to tax them. Okay, are you with me? So remember, control first, then tax base, then demographics and tax rates, then tax efficiency. That is how we create the income sandwich that we're going to build our empire with. We need lots of money, right? One of the big parts of the game is making lots of money. And there's lots of different ways to make money, right? One of them is trade. Trade is complicated. So I'm just going to come over here to the markets and trading section. I'm just going to right click that. Boom. Now trading is automated. I don't have to think about it. And we're already making money from gold being sold to places. Perfect. Now we don't have to think about that one. There are so many things in this game that if they are too difficult for you, you just open up this automation tab and you turn on automation while you try to learn other things. Like for me, I just like to automatically replace my generals and admirals. It's like, boom, yeah, you handle that for me. So, cut a long story short, proximity cost is awesome because a lower proximity cost gives us more control. And control is the bottom half of our sandwich in making income. So we're going to go ahead and grab nomadic tendencies. So that whole thing there of explaining why I was going to take this one technology in a game that we have not yet unpaused. Welcome to Europa Universalis 5. It is complex. It is beautiful. It is a lovely, delicious, insane sandwich to grapple with. And I highly, highly recommend it. I cannot recommend how interesting and weird this game is. So now I want to deal with our possible cabinet actions. So your cabinet actions are basically one of your main functions in how to shift the demographics or values, or it's a really, really powerful way for you to interact with the game, basically. So I'm going to go ahead and assign a cabinet action to one of my 3 seats here. So there's a bunch of different actions, okay? I can change the societal values. I can develop my land. Developing land is actually really, really good for a whole variety of reasons. If I come over to Niani here and I show you this, right? So higher development lets you have more resource gathering organizations. That allows you to generate more resources without an input cost. RGOs are unique in the game in that they do not have an input cost. They only have a labor cost, which makes them extremely efficient for increasing base tax. However, or rather, whereas most other buildings, like you could see here, these tool guilds here, they have an input cost of iron and then they output tools, and the potential profit is the delta between those two prices. Whereas gold, right, gold is produced. And similarly, like if I build a rice RGO here, rice will just be produced. So cut a long story short, development is really, really strong, but this is a very long-term choice. Okay, like to put this into perspective, right now in Niani, development is increasing by 0.0021 every month. Now we know, I hope, that there are 12 months in a year. So if I take this number, 0.021, 0.0021, and I multiply that by 12, okay, I'm gonna get about 0.0252 development per year, which is, let's say we multiply that by 100, because that's about as long as an age lasts, right? If I multiply this then by 100, that's about 2.5 development per century, okay? Development takes a very long time to appear, but it has a wide-reaching range of effects, right? It increases your population capacity, it lowers population proximity cost. Remember, this is about control. The really cool thing about having, so development is really good, but it's really hard to get. It's really, 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 really hard to get. It's so hard to get, okay? It's so difficult to get development. You can see here, there's a few things that increase it. Maliki, which is our religious school, gives us a bit of development. The urban development grants gives us this. You can get some from prosperity, having a river and farmlands and literacy for our burghers improves our development. Another really good way, like I was saying, to increase our development is through the develop province action here. Now, let's say we were to enact this, right? Develop province, and let's appoint a cabinet member, ideally from our ruling family here. The reason we're going to assign so basically every action has an associated skill. So you can see here, the skill that it's associated with this developing old man ding is administrative, which is this skill here, the administrative ability. Each character has 3 abilities and a bunch of sub traits that changes how good they are. So you can see here, this guy has high administrative ability, which will give him a bonus to administrative cabinet action. So I'm going to go ahead and appoint him at this job. And now we're developing 0.0048 development per month in every single one of these locations. Really great. So now if we were to do the maths, right? Remember the maths that we did where we were saying like, oh, we're going to get like 2.52 development per century? If we take this now, and we do the maths again, we take 0.0072 times 12. That's 0.0864 development per year. A rounding error, but if we put that out across a century, that's like 8.64% development. Now, there's a kind of hidden bonus of development that is so important that you don't notice it, but it has to do with the demographics of your country and goods consumption. So if we go over here to a burgher, which is a city dweller, and we look at their pop needs, you can see here they have a variety of needs. So for example, every 1,000 burgers needs 2.40 or 0.00240 pottery. So then you multiply that by the number of pops. However, development increases the rate at which people consume goods. The more goods that people consume, the more profitable it is to produce that thing. Because the price of a good is based on its supply and consumption, its supply and demand, which means demand drives your economy and demand drives your base tax, which drives your income. So development is actually really, really, really good to get. Anyway, so I explained one cabinet action there. Very loosely. Now, do we want to do development? It's probably fine. I think we're going to heavily focus on developing up our capital region, partially just simply due to the fact that it's so close to our main capital, and you can kind of see this gray border. That's kind of the places that are within Old Manding, which is this province here. You can kind of see that area there. So what we're going to do is we're going to slowly develop this region with that action for a while. I'm also going to settle tribesmen in this area. There's 39,000 tribesmen in Old Manding, and we want them to become regular peasants. Right now, if we were to look at the demographics of tribesmen, you can see 9 of them are promoting per month. It'll be this times 6. It'll be like 70-ish next month or whatever. So we'll rapidly convert these tribesmen into more youthful population types, which is really nice. Let's assign a cabinet member. I will take a noble because he has a really high skill, even though I don't necessarily want him. Increasing province control is also really good for early game stuff. And then I'll use my crown prince as that. And part of the reason that we want to use our royal family members is because by using royal family members, we will actually get a boost to our crown power. You can see here, by having members of the royal family in the cabinet, we get a boost to our crown power. And crown power is just one of those things that gives you benefits across the board, right? It makes it cheaper to revoke privileges. The estates in our country are happier. We get power projection, efficiency, we get more trade income, it's cheaper to maintain our court, our buildings are cheaper, we get more parliament support. Like, crown power is so damn good. And in fact, crown power is so damn good that I'm going to come here and I'm going to implement autocracy, even though it will technically empower the nobles in my country by passively promoting autocracy or aristocracy. You can see here, there's you imagine the value, the social value of aristocracy versus plutocracy can range between the nobles being dominant or the burghers being dominant. And when the nobles are dominant, you get discipline and your court is more expensive. When the burghers are dominant, your court is cheaper, but you get more trade efficiency and more burghers. But 10% crown power is very useful. So we're going to go ahead and grab that, because every little squeeze of crown power that we can eke out of our civilization is very useful. What else do we need to handle? We have disloyal subjects. So in order to handle the disloyal subjects, I'm going to go ahead and increase diplomatic spending until our subjects are loyal. And then I'm going to add a little bit of extra just to be a buffer. So basically, diplomatic spending increases the amount of diplomats that you have access to, but it'll also, well, you know what? Let's actually max this out, because we can use this to siphon income from our subjects via the diplomats. Basically, more diplomatic spending equals more diplomatic actions and better diplomatic reputation, which has a lot of downstream effects for dealing with conflict. Now, important to note that we actually have a bunch of subjects as Mali due to our starting location, due to our starting situation, and we are technically an empire. Now, we can study Islamic texts. This would gain us Islamic jurisprudence, which would get us a stability investment improvement, as well as a boost to our tolerance of the true faith. Or in other words, basically, people who follow our religion will be happier. That's what tolerance of the true faith means. And stability, both of these things are really good for increasing the stability of your country. We will shift towards jurisprudence, if I can hover over it correctly, which will actually increase our research progress. And research is really, really powerful. So I'm going to go ahead and study the Islamic texts. Boom. So that's that. Ooh, you know what I should probably do, actually? Instead of, I think what we're doing right now is fine. Increasing control is fine. We have an adult heir, Magan Kita, who is not married. So let's have a look at probably marrying a lowborn. It doesn't seem like there's anyone who, it looks like there's no people who are valid to marry. So I'm just going to marry a lowborn. He can marry up to 3, I believe. I'm just going to give him 1 for now. Basically, I just want him to pump out a couple of kids for us that we can appoint to cabinet positions and maybe use to rule our country. We do have the ability to allow slaves to have their own religion, or we can force the conversion of slaves. Personally, I don't mind the slave religion, because humanist is very valuable, because humanism gives you tolerance for non-religious, but this does come at a clergy estate downside. The advantage of spiritualist is you can have really, really strong religious unity, and people will be a lot happier. So I might go for forced conversion just for the stability. Okay, so we've talked about a few of the things that we want to do. We've gotten rid of a lot of these. We do have some unhappy estates. That's not so important. A little bit more important is going to be like dealing with our pop needs and unprofitable buildings, inefficient minting, and possible rivals, all this sort of stuff. Let's go ahead and have a look at some rivals that we could grab. I'm just going to go ahead and rival everyone that I can, because it gives us diplomatic opportunities. And I'm also, now I want to start expanding my empire as well. So Guirico, I'm going to go ahead and start building a spy network in there with the purpose of eventually conquering them and making them a tributary. In terms of colonies, I'm going to start colonizing one of the adjacent locations to us. So we're colonizing Adrar now, which is all the way over here. Now, the nice thing about colonizing up over here is that the existing demographics are relatively low, so it should be pretty easy for us to build up a a presence here, and then we're kind of getting control of the Sahara. We can head up north and start trading and dealing with like Morocco and stuff later on in the game. Is there a colonizing map mode? There is, but I don't think we're really fully ready to start doing that. I wouldn't mind colonizing up over here somewhere. Yeah, I'm going to colonize Arguin as well. The idea here is that we'll send population over there for the purpose of spreading our knowledge north, because we know Europe is up here. Okay, we have prior knowledge, so we're going to spend a bit of money on colonies. That will get us a little bit of migration. It'll take a long time for those to pay off, but I think it will be worth it. So, how do we build an economy? Well, one of the most important resources when you're building up economy is going to be lumber. So lumber is the resource that is used to expand every type of resource gathering operation that isn't lumber. And so for that reason, the very first thing that I'm going to do is pump 3 levels into the lumber here, so we can get as much lumber coming out of this as possible. Another really important resource for us is going to be masonry. Masonry is the resource that is used to build city buildings. There's 2 categories of locations in Europa Universalis 5 or EU 5. There's rural buildings and urban buildings. And then there's 2 types of urban locations. There's towns and cities. But to cut a long story short, urban buildings, generally speaking, take masonry to produce, which means if you have a lot of masonry in your economy, urban buildings are really cheap, meaning expanding cities is cheap. Resource gathering locations or organizations always take lumber, with the exception of the forestry industry, which takes tools. If I remember correctly, I can't think of one that doesn't use lumber offhand. Maybe like iron uses tools. There might be one that doesn't use lumber, but generally speaking, lumber is a really good to make cheap. And so for that reason, I'm going to click on lumber and I'm going to go ahead and put it up here. And this will let us know what the price of lumber is in our main market. So you can see here, lumber is currently minus 26.7% of its base price. Cheaper lumber means cheaper buildings. So if I click, if I go to our market here, you can see this is our market here, Niani. The brighter the color is, the better market access we have. So you can kind of see the main market is here in Niani, and as things spread out, it gets darker. Inside the Niani market, trade routes are what link markets, by the way. You can sell or buy goods from different markets. Like, if I go to trading here, I can say, oh, let's see, suggested imports for profit. I can import whatever. Boom, I'm now profiting more from imports. Yeah, so resource gathering organizations generally take wood. Then you've got peasant buildings, which generally take masonry or wood. And then you've got laborer buildings, which generally don't cost anything, if I remember correctly. Or maybe, no, they take masonry or lumber. So long story short, lumber and masonry, you want them to be as cheap as possible, because if you look here at this gold, the base price for building a gold mine is 50 cash, right? Oh, I made the game crash. Whoops, by hovering over that. Oh God, I'm gonna have to start from scratch. We didn't do that much. It's fine. The only thing that I have found to crash my game when I play EU5 is hovering over a tooltip too aggressively, which is so weird. It's so weird, and I don't know how to explain it to you. That's really funny. I spent all that time explaining, but I don't actually get, because I didn't actually unpause the game. I don't have like an autosave. Kill me. Anyway, long story short, right? Cheaper goods means cheaper buildings. Cheaper buildings. If you have a 33% discount on buildings, that means every third building is free, basically. Okay? If you have a 33% increase in price, every third building, it costs you an extra building's worth of resources. Of this resource up here, gold, right? So it's really important to make wood and masonry really, really cheap in your empire, because that's going to allow you to expand your economy way faster than you would maybe otherwise be able to. So for that reason, I like to click on wood and masonry. I lock them up here, and so now I can track their price in real time, and I can see, okay, masonry is getting a little bit expensive. I need to build more masons. Another reason that that's so important is because when you build roads, they use, you guessed it, lumber and masonry and a little bit of sand. So sand is also important to make deep. Not quite as important as the other ones because it's not used as heavily, but it still is important. Anyway, let me go ahead and get my empire back to where we were with all these decisions that we made. That's really funny. It's kind of hilarious that I've been talking for nearly an hour and we haven't unpaused the game. Like, that's kind of absurd, really. Instead of doing province control, I'm actually going to focus on conversion. No. Let's focus on control. I changed my mind. All right, we got some budget to take care of. We want to improve our cost of court, automate our costs, or automate our taxing. I don't want to invite a religious figure. I don't have any rivals that I can set, so that's fine. I think we did have a couple of colonies we wanted to set up. Okay, and then we'll handle taxes, do trade. Okay, country's looking good. So masonry right now is a surplus, but it's not too cheap. Right, let me go ahead and disable, from a building point of view, I'm going to disable my granaries in the short term because they use a little bit of money. And I don't want to spend money on anything right now except for marketplaces and temples. I'm okay with those. I need to work on developing the city of Niani. Well, probably, if we look at gold, currently, every level of gold RGO in Niani will output 1.2 goods due to our output modifiers. That 1.2 goods is worth 3.18 gold in terms of tax base. And then we extract that. So probably the best way for us to increase the tax base in Niani right now is to pump more gold, even if it leads to inflation, because we can then spend the massive amount of money that this will make us on reducing inflation in other ways. So let's go ahead and max out our gold RGOs. And in fact, it's probably a good idea to max out all of the RGOs of the adjacent locations. Maybe not immediately, because some of them require population. All right, let's go to maximum speed. Let's start building a spy network on these guys so that we can go to war. We can chill and we can unpause, and then we'll tackle some of the things that come to us. Okay, our leader immediately died. That's awesome. Cool. A little bit unfortunate. That is going to hit our stability a little. So if we check the demography of Niani here, you can see the tribesmen are converting really fast. We're converting about 800 tribesmen per year, plus we're converting them to peasants, that is. There's a few little things that we could do in terms of our estates. For example, I think I would like to revoke the privilege of the protected faith of the common people, because it would be nice to be able to convert people. So I'm going to go ahead and revoke that, even though it will really piss off the peasants, because I'm going to immediately give them a different right, which will be the access to royal and ecclesiastical courts, which will really annoy the clergy, but that's fine. I'm going to give my peasants hunting permits as well in order to improve our movement towards free subjects, because I like free subjects. Basically, it's a scale going from serfdom to free subjects. I like free subjects because you get that pop promotion speed bonus, allowing you to change your country really quickly, and also maximum prosperity, or the prosperity boost is really nice as well. And then the final thing I'm going to do is look for, there's a thing in here that gives, do I already have it? Let me see. Yeah, market fairs, that's what I was looking for. High prosperity is super powerful, so having market fairs is really, really nice. Let me also give them the right to build roads. Road building rights will give us centralization. Centralization is amazing because when you get to maximum centralization, not only do you get crown power, you also get lowered proximity cost. And both of these things enhance each other, so it becomes even more powerful the more centralization you can get. Really, really good. So I'm going to give them road building rights. They will also occasionally build roads for me. Now, the downside of giving out privileges is it does make these factions more powerful. Let me see. Is there a privilege I want to revoke? I kind of want to revoke control over monetary policy and protected faith of the wealthy. Yeah, I kind of want to revoke control over the monetary policy, because that just torpedoes the maximum tax of these guys so much. And I am going to want to tax the hell out of my population as much as possible. Okay, so we get a bunch of legitimacy. However, we are at risk of the decline of empire. If we have low stability, if we have low control, if we have low population, and plus there's a whole bunch of things that can happen. But basically, we need to keep our stability high. We need to keep our stability and our legitimacy high, or we're going to have a really, really bad time. That's the short version of it. Why is the satisfaction equilibrium of my priests so low? I think I need to give them a privilege. In theory, I could get a few ducats per month from them. We could give them tax exemption. I'd need to give them 5% happiness boosts. So I think religious land rights is a good one. It'll just increase the amount of clerics I have, and more clerics means more research, because your monthly research progress is based on the average literacy of your country and the satisfaction of your clergy. So since clergy have, generally speaking, a higher literacy than the rest of your population, having more clergy means more research, plus a bunch of other like downstream effects. Really, playing this game is like tending to a garden. Religious administration is nice. I do need to be careful about tanking the happiness of some of my other institutions. Like the Umara are getting pretty low, so I'm probably going to wait just a few months. We built a lumber mill. Once the building is built, then the population has to be promoted into working in it. So you can see here, we can promote 13 people per month. So they should get promoted up into laborers. You can see now we're starting to promote those laborers. It will take, the employment demand will be met in about 10 years. So very much so, you are a gardener. You are gardening your empire slowly. Another gold construction is finishing. Let's see here. So we can get stability plus rural attraction, moving towards traditional movements, or we can go for building up our cities. I think I'm going to take the stability hit to build up our cities. It's a whole, like, really that's what that boils down to. There's a lot of text going on there, but we can boil it down to, do we want to focus on developing our cities or our rural locations? And speaking personally, I know which one of those I want to do. I'm going to change my employment system to maybe infrastructure, then most profitable. Basically, first come, first serve. Buildings will be filled in the order that they were built. Most profitable will fill the most profitable buildings first. Equality will distribute your population evenly. Infrastructure will fill infrastructure buildings, and then in the order of the most profitable. I kind of like equality personally, but the progress towards communalism isn't ideal. So let's go with most profitable first to get the capital economy boosted. Yes, our stability is very low, and it takes a long time to build up stability. Maybe 2 colonies was very aggressive. What if we did 2 colonies at half investment? That'll give us a lot more money to spend on our economy. Now, let's have a look at the cost of our road. So constructing a gravel road from Niani to Deir Bakaro, masonry is not yet cheap. So let's pull up Dhaka Jalan here, and I'm going to build a trio of masonries in here. And then I also want to make sure that I'm subsidizing these so that even if they become unprofitable, I want to keep them employed, because cheap masonry is important for me. Similarly, in Kaaba, I'm going to come in here. I'm going to tell them to produce sand. We don't need an outrageous amount of sand, but it's not the end of the world if we get a lot of sand early game. We don't have to worry about it for a very long time. So I'm just going to build so much sand in here, and it'll take some time for these things to get cheaper. So the burghers want some land rights. This would lower the RGO size in cities and towns. I don't think it's worth it, so I'm okay with pissing them off. I'm fine with that, because I don't want to give them that privilege. So the satisfaction equilibrium of my priesthood is still a little bit low. I'm going to give them holy men in the administration. That's going to give them agenda impact and a little bit of movement towards spiritualist. Spiritualist allows us to convert our population faster and gives us more clerics in our cities, which will have downstream effects. But we'll convert population faster, but we will assimilate a little bit slower. So let's go ahead and grab a holy men in administration. Boom. We do need to be careful about the satisfaction of some of our other guys. It's fine for now. Let's have a look. What is the price of the road looking like? Yeah, masonry is still expensive. I'm going to add another couple of masons over here, maybe in Siguri here. I will also get myself a few masons. Now, they do take about a year to build. Let's have a look. So we can focus on moving towards a traditional economy, or we can focus on moving towards a capital economy. Let's kind of like evaluate those two things right now. So if we look here, capital economy lowers the cost of buildings, lowers your food production, lowers your interest, and increases your production efficiency. So buildings being cheaper, that is just obviously good. You can increase the rate at which you change or shape the economy of your country by investing in buildings. Food production going down is bad, but food production isn't a problem for us right now. So we would like to move towards capital economy. Traditional economy isn't bad. It just makes buildings more expensive. It gives you more raw materials and more population capacity and more food. It is good in its own right. It's just that we would like capital economy better, because production efficiency and building costs are really useful. Plus, by modernizing, we gain research progress, trade advantage. Some people will be pissed off. But it's going to take a very long time to move towards capital economy. We're only moving, like, we're 84% pushed towards being an almost entirely traditional economy. We have to overcome that 84% before we ever get a single point of capital economy, because it's a scale, right? It's you land either side of the scale, and when you're at zero, you get no benefit. So we're going to push for economic modernization to gain research progress. There is the proximity cost reduction. Remember, proximity cost is important because now the distance between locations, you can see here, nomadic tendencies, the distance between our locations is slightly lower. The maximum amount of control that you can have in a place is heavily dependent on its proximity to the capital. Thus, our economy is now better. Monthly legitimacy is really useful. This is super good for a number of reasons. First of all, when you're fully invested into the cost of your court, you will reach the maximum cap faster if you have passive legitimacy. In addition to that, when you're at the cap, you only need to spend a percentage of your cost of court based on what your decay is, right? So like every month you have a decay rate of your legitimacy. So you have to at least cover the decay rate to sit at neutral. And that costs money. So basically, this will save us money in the long run. It will save us a lot of money in the long run. So I'm going to grab Lands of the Ancestors. Now, let's open up the Age of Tradition so we can kind of queue up a few techs here. So I'm going to go for monthly legitimacy because, again, we want to have high legitimacy for crown power and less rebellions. It'll also, monthly legitimacy will also save us money when we're at maximum. Tolerance of the True Faith will lower the amount of rebellions that we have to deal with. So we're going to go ahead and grab that. Maximum literacy for the clergy is incredibly powerful because it will increase the average literacy in our country. Higher literacy is good because the average literacy rate increases the amount of monthly research progress you get. So very, very useful, very powerful. Those are going to be the texts that we pick up for now. So Guerico is ready to be declared war on. I'm going to declare war with a purpose. Now, we could do a religious war. We could do slave raiding, or we could make them a tributary. Now, if we go to the religion map mode, you can see we are Sunni and they are Rogomiki. So we have sort of a religious legitimacy to attack them, which we're going to use. So I'm going to create a casus belli, religious war, centered on them. And when this casus belli is completed, we'll be able to declare the war. Now, kind of just ballparking it looks like we shouldn't have too much of an issue expanding into them. We're maxed out on our available diplomats. And so this is just going to be something that I do pretty regularly. We're going to manage our subjects, or rather, we're going to go to some subject actions, and we're going to siphon income from them. I do wish I could filter this list by who has the highest liberty desire. Yeah, just suction off a bit of gold from our vassal swarm. It's a way to basically get a bit of the value that we input into the diplomats back. Okay, we can call our very first council. Now, councils are really, really important because they're one of the best ways to shape your country. For example, expanding the gravel road network has a really big effect, increasing your centralization. Remember, centralization is one of those things where the more centralization you have, the more insanely powerful you are. So for that reason, we're going to be focused on gravel road networks wherever possible. Now, important effect of the gravel road network is it lowers the road building time significantly and the road building cost. So I'm going to use this opportunity to build a bunch of roads in my capital radiating outwards because the cost right now, even though the cost right now is really, really low, thanks to the expanded gravel network and the fact that we've managed to reduce the cost of all these goods. So the roads quite literally are at probably the cheapest rate they're going to be for a very long time. So we're going to invest heavily in expanding roads. And expanding the road network has a lot of really good effects in terms of proximity cost. It has really good effects in terms of development. It's just really good for your empire to build roads. It gives you so much more power. Now, the other thing that we can do with the parliament here is that we can negotiate with our estates. For example, we could offer support for serfdom, which would give us more parliament support, which would allow us to change laws. One of the laws that I really like to change early game is It's like it's something distribution. Yeah, Gabara here. Gabara isn't bad. Don't get me wrong. Oh, I lost it again. So Gabara is not bad. It gives you noble estate, cheaper culture, really, really good. However, I really like favor the ruler because it gives you crown power and maximum tax. Those two things are very, very strong. So I'm going to go ahead and select favor the ruler. Boom. And then I'm going to see if I can negotiate with these guys to get parliament support back up. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to. That's okay. We got the cheap roads. We'll lose a little bit of stability. And importantly, we increased the power of our crown, which has positive effects downstream in a bunch of areas. But now we've also managed to increase the maximum tax that we can extract for everyone, which will mean we get access to more of our nation's economic outputs. So lots of really good things. Lots of really good downstream effects, basically. So let's see. We can let Sulayman Kita rule our country. We gain legitimacy, or Mansa Magan Kita can gain diplomatic ability, and we gain stability. The stability is really valuable here, so I'm going to grab that stability, even though it's the non-historical choice. Hey, look at that. We're up to plus 18 gold per month. It's fantastic because we've maxed out our legitimacy, which means the legitimacy, we only need to spend 34.52% of our investment because we're at our maximum legitimacy, which is great, meaning we have more money that we can pump into building up our economy and shaping the demographics of our country. Because one of the most important aspects of playing Europa Universalis 5 is controlling the demographics of your country. So you can see here, 53% of our population are peasants. 34% are tribesmen. So tribesmen have near zero production. They're good for military stuff. They're okay for military. Peasants have a little bit of production. Laborers have decent production, but what we want are burghers and a little bit of clerics and some soldiers, but mostly burghers, laborers, clerics, and depending on your gameplay style, slaves. But laborers, burghers, and clerics, these guys have the higher literacy. They consume more resources. They produce more. And they provide a lot of really powerful effects to your country. So we need to start shaping the demographics of our country. Ooh, the nice thing is, first roads just got built. You can kind of see here now, the distance between Niani and Gabaro. If I click on Gabaro, you can see it's 18. Sorry. The tooltip system in this game is awesome. So the base cost is 40, minus 20 for the gravel road, plus a bunch of modifiers, which leads to it being 18.71. And then the really important thing here is that has downstream effects. So the distance from Niani to Garalo now is only 18.71, which means by increasing the proximity of Niani to Garalo, I've increased the proximity of every province downstream of that. And that is the really important thing that you need to remember, is that it's all about the like how much downstreaming can I do? How much can I project the power of my country? There we go, extra monthly legitimacy. That will save us some money. Excellent. Okay, so now that our roads are starting to come online with the first circle around our capital, we're going to start developing the resource generation or the resource gathering organizations that are directly adjacent to the capital to increase our general income, I guess, for lack of a better description. And we're also going to be looking to develop them into towns. The idea behind developing them into towns is that towns allow you to have burghers. Each burgher eats roughly 5 times as much resources than a regular peasant. Yes, it's harder to produce food. We can have a few specific food generation locations. Like, for example, this beeswax location, probably better that that's a food location. The rice, it's probably better that that's a food location. Like, whereas iron, that's probably fine for me to make that into a town, right? Like, sure, let's make that. Boom, into a town. So we'll only go to half. Oh, here's rice. We can leave the rest the way it is. Anyway, cut a long story short, we don't need to worry about our food income right now, but it is something we want to consider, that like the getting food gets harder later on in the game. And so if you overbuild cities, it can be problematic for you. So having a few food generation locations isn't terrible. But early game food is abundant. I mean, like if we go check out our market, I think there is a way to check the food balance. Yeah, look at that. We've got a huge balance of 1,200 foods. We've plenty of room to eat. In fact, maybe it's fine to urbanize everything adjacent to our capital. Like maybe it's not the end of the world if we just urbanize it, and make like a circle of cities. Okay, we have our Casas Belli against Guarico. Let's go ahead and declare the war. We are up against a whole bunch of countries. That's fine. It is a religious war. Let's declare. Then we are going to raise all of our levies. Important thing to note is if levies die, you lose actual population in your country. So you don't want to just like throw your levies away. In terms of the nobles, I'm going to give them primacy of nobility, get plus 5% discipline and a little bit of progress towards quality. High quality increases our military tactics. Military tactics lowers the amount of damage your units take. Army initiative increases the speed at which your units begin combat. A lot of really good things about having high quality. So we're going to go for primacy of nobility, even though it will heavily reinforce the Umara, making the crown weaker. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, waiting for our levies to appear. Perfect. Now let's group our levies. Oh, I need to remember to automatically assign generals and admirals in the automation screen. Double checking any of these. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of inflation. It's not the end of the world. Should be fine. So we're going to merge our units. We're going to balance them. And then we're going to look to begin the fight. Now, yeah, I think we have way more military than they have. So I don't need to worry about my allies attaching to me. I can just focus on sieging down my enemies and enforcing our religious opinion upon them. Some of my subjects are a little bit disloyal. I'm going to crank just a little bit of money into diplomatic spending. You know what? Let's just max diplomatic spending. It's probably safer. Perfect. We are enslaving the enemies. Now, one thing that we can do to heavily stimulate our economy is to build marketplaces. So marketplaces are a really interesting building because they eat cloth, jewelry, paper, and beeswax. And for that, they produce per building slot one of the largest amounts of burgers. They also give us trade capacity, which leads to downstream effects in terms of money. But marketplaces are a really good thing to build because they allow you to do a lot more trading. They increase the amount of burgers and they consume really high value goods, which you can then produce. So I think we're going to start building a bunch of marketplaces in Niani for the purpose of getting a bunch of burgers. And then the burger pops, they eat a lot of resources. So like just give me all the marketplaces. What are we looking at in terms of military? Okay, they have a little bit more military now. So I'm going to go ahead and let my allies know that I'm okay with them attaching to me. We're going to start slaughtering enemy stacks where we can grab them. So we're in the middle of attacking them. If we click on the battle, you can see there are 3 flanks. We are the attacker. So we are the top line here. They are the defenders at the bottom line here. And basically, every hour, unit has a chance to go from being in reserve to joining the fight. We're currently in a rough spot. Oh no, a bunch of our units just joined. So now we're attacking. So let's see. Levies, old military tactics. Dice roll is 5. We're killing 16, whereas these guys are only killing 6. Yeah, so we should pretty comfortably defeat these guys, especially because a lot of our units are on the front line now. We're using maximum frontage, and now we're getting flanking attacks. Flanking attacks have a bonus, especially if it is a cavalry unit that is doing it. Perfect. So we killed about 4 times as many people as we lost, which is great. And looks like these guys are coming in to fight us. We're going to focus on defeating enemy armies. The idea being then that our allies can focus on sieging. So if we take out the enemy armies, they'll be in good shape. Perfect. One thing I like about EU5 is you can actually click on the army banner, and as long as you have vision of it, your army will go there to fight it, which is magical and or beautiful. Okay, we're going to catch these guys and hopefully do a lot of damage to them. Their morale is really low. Perfect. Yeah, basically, we just have to hunt down a bunch of enemies over time. We need to degrade their levies. Perfect. We stack wiped them. Now that we've stack wiped them, they shouldn't be able to raise any levies for a while. We do want to go hit Kong. There's no forts down there, so we'll just quickly grab Kong. By grabbing Kong, they won't be able to create any new annoyingnesses. All right, I will siphon your income. I will siphon your income. I don't care whose income I really siphon, as long as I don't like destroy my my capability of like managing vassals. I want to basically, it's a way for me to turn diplomats into money, even if it pisses off my vassals and they become disloyal or whatever. Disloyal vassal, not the end of the world. Okay, perfect. We're getting these guys under control. We might be able to do a very big expansion here. One thing I find annoying, it's hard to tell where the capitals of provinces are. And if you capture the capital of a province, it just makes it so much easier to occupy an enemy country. So yeah, something I want to show off really quick is the difference in resource consumption between burghers and peasants. So if we just take a look at these pop needs here, if we look at something like, these guys are consuming jewelry, they're consuming books, they're consuming pottery. Trying to see, is there a good example? Can I show livestock here? Yeah, like they're consuming 0.01 livestock, whereas I think peasants, if you look at their pop needs, they consume a much smaller array of goods and they consume a much lower amount. So you want to upgrade to burghers if you can, because look at these peasants, right? They're eating a fifth the amount of livestock, which means the price of livestock is way lower. And that means I don't get to tax a high price good. All right, enemy armies are down to a small enough level to where I can detach now and focus on carpet sieging. Okay, we won this battle. We won this battle. Excellent. We are eviscerating this entire section of the map. Okay, so let's start dealing with these guys. I think with these minor guys, we could force convert them and make them our vassals. Let's have a look. What is the antagonism looking like there? If we make you a vassal, force convert and vassalizing is tough. It's quite expensive. I think what we'll do is we'll make them our vassals and then forcibly convert them later. Probably the better way to do things. So let's see. A separate sue for peace. I want all your money. I want you to become a tributary. Tributaries spend 20% of their income. Vassals send 20% of their income. What kind of vassals do I have right now? Question. Let's do an experiment here. I don't know if you could turn a tributary into a regular vassal. Let's make them a tributary on the experimental side of things. Plus, I'll make them pay war reps. So can I, in theory, I can make them a vassal if they like me a lot. Okay, that's good for me to know. But they are a little bit disloyal right now because they hate me. So let's start by improving relations with you. Give me your money, pay war reparations, and I want you to become a tributary. Oh yeah, the other thing I want to check is how much diplomatic capacity that used. So who are you again? You were Yatenga. Government types. Okay, so tribes are much... So yeah, making these guys vassals is really easy. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make them all vassals. I'm not allowed to send separate pieces for a couple of days. And there we go. So war reparations, they become a tributary. We do need to be careful about getting coalitions created against us. I'm not too worried about that. All right. Give me all your money, plus you pay war reparations, and you become my tributary. I can't afford to do all of these, so let's get rid of this and this. Perfect. And then we're going to make you a tributary. I don't think I can force convert you right now, but that's fine. Perfect. And now we can disband our levies. And if we go to the diplomacy map mode, we just expanded the Malian Empire all the way out over here. Plus, our vassals are going to be paying us a bunch of money, both in terms of war reparations and in their income, which is excellent. And we can annex them later when we're ready to. We did piss them off pretty heavily, but we have successfully expanded the Malian Empire to be pretty dang big. New rivals. That's fine. Let's continue to work on expanding our empire. Bono Man over here. We will begin building a spy network in, and possibly in Fada here. Although I am going to sit on a lot of diplomats. I may not do this. I will cancel this one for sure. But I may hold back on doing way too much spy stuff because I want to improve my relationship with my existing vassals and maybe even look to annex a vassal or two. Okay, so our son, who is our heir, has become ambitious, which gives him a bunch of stat boosts. We could, in theory, improve his stats by giving him an expensive education. It will increase the cost of our court. It's a pretty big cost increase. It can be worth it though, because it's basically like basically every month he will get like a stat boost while he's a child, and that stat boost has like positive effects later on in the game. So you can see here, as our ruler, we get crown power from admin ability, cheaper buildings, happier estates, which means more tax money, better military stuff. So it can be worth it here, but it's quite expensive. You know, I think I'm going to go for it. I think it's worth it to have a really, especially if he's already ambitious, he's going to have really high stats anyway. So that's probably worth it. So successful war was successful. We've expanded our country. In terms of vassals, we've managed to spread our proximity a little bit, it might be worth it for us to consider to annex Diaphanu here, as the proximity cost of this location for us, like, I think we would actually be better off handling this land ourselves at this point, because if you look at where Niani is, like, stuff over here better handled by vassals, but this is like, if we start building roads, we can start managing Diaphanu pretty well. So especially because if we consider the river map mode, you can see here this river going up through here. Stuff that's on or near a river is way easier to manage than stuff that isn't. So I'm going to go ahead and talk to these guys. And I'm probably going to start their annexation in the next little while. All right, let's go back up to max speed. We are in the process of building a whole bunch of marketplaces in Niani, which is going to have a bunch of positive effects for us. Oh, and we've reached the age of Renaissance. That's sick. So there's kind of... Oh, what's this? We got Wandering Scholars, so more tolerance. We can choose 3 paths through each age of the game. So we could go for Thirst of Knowledge, or rather Administrative, Diplomatic, Military. Diplomatic is nice because it has things like Integrated Elites, giving us extra diplomats. This will give us access to the March subject type. Marches are really good. It gives fort defense, discipline, fort limit, fort maintenance. They do pay less money, but they're much better militarily. Better claim fabrication, market attraction, trade advantage, higher privateers, diplomatic reputation. Let's see. Ooh, subject income is really nice. And pressuring diplomacy. So this is really good if you're going for like a vassal-based strategy, which we kind of are. Whereas administrative focus is really good if you're going to be building up your empire. So you've got stuff like maximum literacy, which is great for science. Also has other downstream effects. Court accounting lowers the amount of money you have to pay to maintain your legitimacy. Better mercenaries. You've also got proximity cost reductions, which is incredibly powerful. This is basically like worth 2.5 development in every city in every location in terms of proximity cost. Stability is really strong. A lot really good. Military makes your army crazy if you're going to be doing a lot of fighting. Just the fact that you get levy combat efficiency here, because the Age of Renaissance actually starts to lower your levy combat efficiency, because you think of like the Age of Renaissance as like the beginning of the transition point from raising levies to fight wars to the beginning of professional armies. So going for the military focus gives you not only bigger levies, right? But it lets you sort of stave off that transition a little bit longer, while also providing a bunch of bonuses to, or a bunch of benefits for fighting, right? Extra prestige. High prestige is really useful for a number of reasons. Your antagonism goes down if you have high prestige, meaning you can conquer more. Your diplomatic reputation is higher. Lots of really cool stuff, like cultural influence is very useful. Lots of really good reasons to go for the military one. The big one on the administrative side is the prox cost, the expected cost of court, and the thirst of knowledge. Everything else is good, but not as good. So, but considering our position on the map, we're going to be the Malian Empire. We're going to be a pretty big, wide empire. So I think we're going to need that prox cost reduction to spread our imperial capability across. Okay. So what are we looking at in terms of the tribesmen? Yeah, there's not a whole lot of tribesmen left in this area, but there still is a reasonable amount. And we do want to get them converted. Peasants are a lot more useful. So it's probably time to talk about food storage and population growth. The amount of food that you have stored in a location affects your population growth. If you have 10 years of food storage in a province, you will get, I think it's like a 0.2% population growth, which is a lot of population growth. To put that into perspective, the normal population growth of an area is like kind of 0.2 if it's empty. A rural location over here, like this one, gets a base population growth boost of just 0.1%. So rural locations just grow faster. So it's a little bit early into the game to be doing this. There's probably better ways to spend our money, but I kind of want to just talk about it. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to build granaries. We're going to open them now. And these granaries will stimulate the economy in 2 major ways. First of all, it'll create a baseline demand for masonry. Secondly, it will create more laborer jobs. And thirdly, it will increase the food capacity of these locations, thus increasing the population growth. Higher population growth means more workers, means more everything. Soldiers, everything. Population is everything in this game. So I'm going to start building my granaries and masonries in here for the purpose of, getting that extra pop growth. Okay, so we could, in theory, start researching stuff from the Age of Renaissance. However, if we look at the cost of the scholarly treatise, you can see its base cost is pretty damn high, right? 25 plus 15%. Whereas if we focus on continuing to grab Age of Tradition stuff, you can see while it does have the same base cost, it's actually discounted because it's from a previous age. So unless there's a particular thing we want from the Age of Renaissance, I do think it is better for us to grab a few things from the Age of Traditions, like Domain of Many Tongues is pretty good. Gives us extra cultural capacity, allowing us to have a more diverse country. I do think organized religion is great. That's going to increase the amount of clergy in our towns and cities, which will get us more research. The maximum literacy of clergy will get us more research as well. And then more literacy for our burghers is also really good. Literacy is very, 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 very powerful. Now, playing as Mali, we do kind of start in a slight disadvantage with regards to, say, maybe some of the bigger European powers or like India, just because of the way that institutions work in the game, but we're not completely helpless. That's the thing. Like, we have tools at our disposal that we can use to kind of, maybe catch up is the wrong word, but like stay competitive is probably the right word. Now, when is our next cabinet? Because I'm curious that maybe we should save up money to see if we get a gravel road network cabinet. I also think it would be a good idea to start the annexation of Diafunu. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but you can see we should be able to project proximity up into there, which will allow us to start to develop that land. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my market. I'm going to go to the Niani market, and let's see which pop needs are in bad shape. And it looks like we need a lot more furniture and paper. And I think getting paper up is actually going to be really important and nice. So I'm going to start building some paper maker guilds in Niani alongside the marketplaces. And that's because we want to have a lot of books so that we can have, our people will consume more of these things. It'll make sense. But basically, the Paper Makers Guild produces paper. Paper is used by a variety of things, right? Things like marketplaces, clerics, soldier buildings, temples. Our population will consume them over time. Right now, we actually have a deficit of paper, which means we have no paper in our country, and that means paper is really expensive. So we want to bring down the price of paper. Each level of a paper maker produces about 1 paper. We have a deficit of 3, so I'll queue up 3 paper makers for now. We'll kind of chill for a bit, waiting for money to trickle in, waiting for events. And we're also in the midst of promoting a lot of population here. We've got many months of population promotion underway. And I really want to focus on developing the city of Niani because, Tad Mecca, our vassal, has asked us for gold. I'm going to decline the offer. I don't really want to give money to my vassals. It's the other way around. So they can be mad at me if they want. I don't care. I'm improving relation with all the new vassals. Actually, there's a couple more I need to make sure that I'm improving with. Yeah, we're improving relation with all of our new vassals. We're annexing this guy. I think what we'll do is we'll improve opinion of this guy as well, just to make sure that we're getting that. Plus, I think in terms of actions, I'm going to go ahead and siphon income from some of my vassals. I'm going to implement fewer levies because I want the monthly progress towards free subjects, because this is going to improve our promotion speed. One of our bottlenecks in the early game is going to be promotion speed. That is the rate at which population will promote to a higher tier. And our main goal right now is to get these 73,000 peasants or so upgraded into laborers or burghers or clergy or nobles, because just the same way it's our goal right now to promote tribesmen. It's a better demographic for like advancing and moving into the next era. And so that is why I want free subjects, because free subjects, if we look here, it gives you population promotion speed. Now, right now we have serfdom, which increases the tax rate we get and material output, but we want free subjects so we can get that promotion speed and the prosperity. One of the things that we can do to increase the promotion speed of a place is to increase the literacy of peasants, to have it be a city, to have high stability, and to have lots of opportunities. So I'm going to start, now that we have maxed out legitimacy, I'm going to start shoving money into stability. I think about a 60% investment to increase our stability is a good amount to start with. That way we still have some spare cash flowing throughout our economy, because high stability will give us extra estate equilibrium, which means more income, and pop promotion speed as well, which is really nice. So well, you know what? Actually, let's crank stability. We're at that point because we need to just get population converting in the capital here. We want to fill out all these 132 building slots if we can. So one of the most important buildings that you're going to want to build relatively early into the game in one of your centers of population is going to be the library. And the big advantage that this building has is this plus 10 pop promotion speed. So population will promote faster, but especially the max literacy and the monthly literacy. Literacy actually increases really slowly. So if I take these burgers here, right, and I take a look at them, you could see their literacy is only 5%, but it could be 5.91. They get 0.1 literacy per year, or 0.12 literacy per year. We can 10 times this with a library, basically, and also increase their maximum literacy. And then remember, literacy has a lot of downstream positive effects, both in terms of the monthly research progress, but also burgers themselves. You can see here, higher literacy gives development growth, trade capacity. Each social strata gives a different effect based on their literacy. You can see here the clerics convert your pops and assimilate them faster based on their literacy. So yeah, I think the big thing that we want to get up and running here is to get our libraries up and running. Now, in order to build a library, you need to have books in your economy. So if we go here and we look, I can't actually build the library because there's not enough books in the Neanine market. And so now we're going to start building scriptoriums. Now, the nice thing about scriptoriums is they also provide jobs for clergymen, increasing the number of clergy here. Clergy have higher literacy. You know, all these downstream effects are coming from this, but it also produces books and it consumes resources like dyes, paper, and lumber, all of which are resources that, look, it's going to stimulate our economy in multiple dimensions. So we're going to start building scriptoriums to try and deal with our book shortage. So we can expand our gravel road network if we wanted to. That's pretty good. I think I will do that because I really want to move towards centralization. Putting the parliament in your capital will give you a prosperity boost. You can see here, prosperity is going up pretty quickly. Let's see here. So I'm going to go for expand gravel network, which will make it cheaper for us to build roads. And that is something we will do. But in addition, if I come in here, you can see, because this is the parliament location, we're actually getting a boost to our prosperity and also a significant boost to our development. So really, really good to run parliaments in your capital. In addition to that, on the centralization side of things, we also get a boost towards centralization thanks to the parliament being in the capital, which is great all on of itself. Now, what's pushing us towards decentralization? We might need to cut something. The feudal administration, we definitely want to consider changing that. It'd be nice to get the central council because the central council gives you a boost towards centralization. The aristocracy isn't great, but it is nice. Let's see, what can we do? We can lose some stability. Nah, I don't think we're going to care. I don't care about winning that. So I tell you what, I'm just going to go ahead and build some more roads and I'm going to focus on range 2. So let's start building some roads while they're nice and cheap. Now let me just double check the prices here. Yeah, they're about as cheap as we can get it. It's not perfectly cheap, but it's pretty good. The inflation hurts us a little, but that's fine. Expanding the gravel road network, we'll get a few roads going, and that will help expand our proximity, which will help expand our control. You can see our control is really strong in the capital due to the maximizing control. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut control over the monthly inflation reduction is really strong, but the maximum tax of these guys is hurting me a lot. Maybe if I wasn't so vulnerable to inflation due to the gold right now, it might be worth it. I think the amount of gold we're producing is a problem. Now this changes things. We can give Bamako an urban parliament seat, which does consume some basic resources and provides us with extra burgers, but it would give us a huge boost in council support. We've also got organized religion now, so when we click on our cities and we go to demography, we can see the maximum number of clerics is going to be higher due to organized religion. So that's really nice. Okay, perfect. We get plus 10 centralization. Beautiful. We have a slight surplus of books in our economy now. We definitely want a much stronger surplus if we can manage it. Looks like our ruler died. No, our uncle died. Let's see if we can't appoint some cabinet members. I think too many of our kids are still a little bit young. I'm going to marry a lowborn to try and get more kids. So here's a pretty interesting building here. So this is a guild hall. What's interesting about the guild hall is that it's not useful. And what I mean by that is this was built by the estate in my country, the burghers, but they didn't build it to improve my country. They built it to improve their power. So basically this was spending money to improve their holdings in my country, which is, well, Kind of crappy of them, right? We can begin the construction of a library, which we will do immediately. It's one of those really important buildings that you need to get up as soon as you can. Let's see, I can demand additional tribute from some of my vassals. This will give them some liberty desire, but more importantly, it'll get me more of their money. So I'm going to start demanding tribute from my vassals. It's the advantage of them being tributaries. Get me a little bit more cash, because remember, diplomacy income is very special and very useful. And then on the other side of things, let's go ahead and siphon some income. Okay, perfect. Here's guilds. This is going to increase the amount of burghers that are going to be inside our cities and towns. If we come over here, you can see the current amount of burghers is 5,000. And now guilds has a base of 100. But the max literacy is huge as well. Like right now we have 5.61 literacy. We're hoping to increase that. Cavalry power is quite powerful. I'm going to grab that. Makes our fighting capabilities better. I think the people of Allah is really good. +1 tolerance of true faith will make people a lot happier if they're my religion. I think a lot of these things are really good. Like institution growth is really strong, as is cheaper food purchasing. So we'll grab those. Just kind of grabbing a few of these. These are old advances because all of the new advances are locked behind scholarly treaties. Even better, you can see more of my roads are starting to come online, which is linking my empire up, making it much easier for me to spread my power. I should also see like a general uptick in the tax base of my country from building roads and stuff like that. So now that the library is finished, it will be a while before it's employed and we'll start actually benefiting from it. Maybe I should have done infrastructure first, then most profitable, because now maybe the library will get employed first, I hope. Yes. So the library is going to get employed first, and now we're going to get that extra pop promotion speed, the extra literacy. So we should start to see a significant increase in the conversion of this city towards its potential. So in the Niani market, we're missing sugar and fine cloth. So let's build a tailor's guild for the fine cloth. I built a carpenter, the jeweler, and the spinner. And we'll just kind of go down the list to make sure we're generally increasing the economic output of the city. Now, unfortunately, the Black Death has appeared. And this is one of the major early game problems that we're going to be looking into. We're not going to have to deal with it for quite a while, but we are going to lose roughly half our population as a result of the Black Death. I think it will make its way down here. Development is very hard to get, and imprisoning a character sucks. I think I can afford to lose legitimacy to the benefit of getting development, because it's so rare and difficult to actually get development. There's only 3,000 more tribesmen over here to forcibly convert to, well, to settle, rather. We're just settling them into the land so that we can bring them into the fold. So one of the problems we're running into here is we're a great power, which is increasing the cost of our expected cost of court, which is massively siphoning off money because we're trying to keep our legitimacy high. There are things that we can do to help this in the long run, but in the short term, it's going to hurt us. If we gave the commoners another privilege, we would be able to get a little bit more tax out of them. So let's have a look at what privileges we could give. Decentralization sucks. Means that production isn't the worst. Partial yield isn't bad, but it doesn't give happiness. I'm going to go with commoners in the administration. It's fine. We'll get rid of that decentralization later, but it's really going to help us get tax out of them. It's also going to give us other ways of other flexibility options, basically. So if I take a peek at the literacy map mode, you can actually see the effects of the library already. You can see most of my country is like hovering around 5, maybe 6 if it's a city or doing particularly well. But my capital is already at 7% and it's going to keep climbing. So really all I'm doing is making sure that I'm building buildings constantly in my capital. And I'm waiting for the relationship with these guys to improve so that I can, start annexing and spreading my power and improving my country. So it looks like we got our very first port because now we're getting maritime and piracy laws to pop up. We're not going to worry about those for a while. I'm just going to tell those to go away. But eventually we will want to do a little bit of naval stuff. I think we're mostly going to be a land power based on our positioning in the world and the fact that the heart of the Malian Empire is like right here inland. If I was playing something more like an island nation, maybe I would focus on being a naval power. But our main goal is to try to exploit our territory to its fullest potential. Another really good building is if you have a market center, which we do in Niani, is to build a market warehouse. So the market warehouse will provide you with 250 burger jobs, which remember, they consume enough resources as 2,500 peasants because they consume about 10 times as much resources. Yeah, it's roughly speaking, that's like a ballpark, it's not an actual thing, but it'll also allow us to have more stockpile in the market, meaning that we're less likely to run into supply shocks. So really, really useful to build market warehouses because there is a sort of simulation of the distribution of resources inside a thingy. Okay, sick. We can do another expansion of the gravel road network, which is slowly centralizing us. I think I might delay this parliament until I have a little bit of money to actually spend on roads. And we are now finally lowering inflation, which is good. And now our institutions will spread a little bit faster. Speaking of institutions, I don't think we have any access to like the Renaissance or Venezia. I can go to institution map mode here and we can't even see the institutions yet. They're still they're not spreading to us. So we're gonna be pretty behind when it comes to institutions, but that's fine. All right, let's go ahead and expand our gravel road network. Now, okay, so unfortunate situation. Our leader died and his heir is underage. So we have a noble regency, which sucks for a variety of reasons. It's not the end of the world. What we can do with this is we could ask for a law change with our parliament, by the way. And I think I would like to, we have favor the ruler. So I'm trying to think about what we want to change. So the royal harem gives us a lot of prestige. Itinerant court is great, but it does cost decentralization, which sucks. Now, right now in our education, we have uneducated masses, which gives literacy to nobles and clergy and makes the nobles happier and increases traditionalism, which is the opposite of the capital economy or traditional stuff. I am considering moving towards religious teachings. This will make us more spiritualist, but it will actually increase the maximum literacy of everyone and make my clergy happier. So I'm going to spend the approval in this parliament to do that. And then we'll just eat the stability loss. It does suck that we can't finish it. Yeah, it'd be hard for us to get the parliament support that we need with the current situation. So I just won't try very hard and instead I'll just focus on building roads while they're cheaper. Okay, perfect. We've settled all of the tribesmen that were in Old Manding. And remember, tribesmen do increase the proximity cost. So that's going to help us spread our wings. So we can have a new action, such as converting if we want to try to have more religious unity. Generally speaking, our people that follow our religion are going to be a lot happier. You can see here, so the happiness of an area the lack of happiness lowers prosperity and control. So converting people to our religion right now, actually it looks like 90% of people are our religion. So that's fine. We could probably just clean up the last little bits with a convert province action. So I'm going to convert people in this province, get it cleaned up because this is our main power base. So at this point, I'm just going to spend my research on cleaning up all of the old researches that are available to me before I move on to the next age. My idea here is that this is a pretty efficient way to do things because we're still in the process of increasing our literacy. I think the literacy in our capital has hit 8% now. I'm a little bit worried about the Black Death. Yeah, it's starting to pass its way through Africa, so it'll probably make its way down to us. So because gold is produced in Niani, it's actually really advantageous for us to build a lot of jewelers guilds here. The jewelers guilds will get a production efficiency boost from gold being produced here, which means they produce 10% more than normal. So jewelry guilds are going to provide us with a lot of income. So that's going to be a building that we probably want to max out. So lumber has become pretty expensive on my market. So probably in Niani, I'm going to build a bunch of lumber mills to try and bring the price down a bit. Okay, so one of my vassals has taken up arms against me. Let's raise all of our levies and then group them up so we can deal with this. All right, we cleaned up Jollof. Let's go ahead and disband our levies in preparation for just chilling. The good news is we no longer have a deficit of lumber. We are bringing down the price, but it will take a long time for population employment to trickle through. Again, plenty of opportunities is helpful because if you have a lot of job openings, people will promote faster. It'll still take a long time though. We've got a lumber producing location over here as well, which would be useful. So I think we'll queue up a few lumber mills there. Okay, looks like we've got a couple of locations near our capital that we can build lumber mills as well. So let's crack out a few more. And let's go back to settling tribesmen. There's a ton of tribesmen in Wasulu. So let's start settling those guys. We'll need to start making use of them economically. So we're at 72 out of a possible 135 buildings in Niani. You can build more than that, but they start getting really expensive. I think I'm going to start building up Dairi Bakoro, which is the city that's right next to Niani, is basically what I'm going to start building up. And in particular, I would really like for my mason and granary to be maxed out here. The idea being, oh, hello. Oh, it looks like it's like some silly little independence war that we have to go deal with. Okay, our ruler is no longer a child, which means he is of age. Our heir is underage, but we can start getting him some lowborn wives, so we can start refilling the royal family tree. Developing the interior would move us more towards land, which would be great. We would also get development in our capital. That's really strong. So I'm going to go for develop the interior. If we could get this to pass, it would be really nice. Supporting traditional economy, not a big deal. They'll do that. Support of communal values is not a big deal either. It does hurt a little bit, but it'll be okay. Because if we can somehow navigate through this to pass, getting +2 land value is really strong. Because if we're maxed out on land, our RGO size is higher, our proximity cost through land is lower, meaning we can project our power further across land, and then we can trade better over land. We are worse at trading overseas, but that's not important. Whereas naval is the other way around. So naval is good for island countries with a coastline. We don't have a coastline, so we could just go full land. Oh, perfect. They asked for an urban parliament seat, which will allow me to basically guarantee that this passes. Big problem we're running into is the sheer cost of maintaining our court. Now, it looks like the Black Death never made it to us, which is cool. So there's development of the interior, some development, societal values, excellent. Niani is up to 25 development, which is excellent. It's a beautiful thing. We've almost maxed out our prosperity. High prosperity also gives migration, attraction, development, and population growth. All wonderful things. So taking a look at the needs of my population that are missing, we're lacking some in the way of weaponry, cloth. If we look at the biggest lack, it looks like it's fruit mostly that we're missing. We will have some opportunities to develop fruit, but we're going to work on beer primarily in Niani. So I'll just park like 4 beer factories there, and that'll maybe help with that. I think burgers demand beer, whereas I don't think other pops like demand quite at the same level. And don't forget, as the development increases, so too will the demand for resources in here. We're creating just an economic consumption hole that just like demands as many resources as it can get its hands on. The tax base of our capital is up to 78.07. And we're actually getting a fair amount of it, about 20 into our coffers every month. So I'm going to pay a big bunch of stability to get a bunch of people to convert to my religion. My current religious unity is around about, let me see here, 52.12%. If I click this button and we wait, I got about a 3% religious unity boost there. Higher religious unity makes your clergy happier. Happier clergy gives you more tax. Speaking of tax for the clergy, it might be a good idea to offer them some stuff here. Well, these are the nobles. Well, I could offer the nobles auxilium et concilium. Levy size is nice. Stability decay. There's a lot of nice privileges, but we do want to be careful about diluting the power of the crown. Ooh, I do like the centralization and tolerance here. Let's grab that. Max literacy is nice, so I'm going to go for freedom of interpretation. Ooh, promote cultural unity is nice too. I'll grab that, and I'll grab auxilium et concilium. No, I'll go for elite council for that stability decay. Anyway, that costs us a lot of legitimacy. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yeah, I think we have a deficit of weapons. So I'd like to add another couple, maybe like 3 weaponsmiths here as well. The burgers, man, they're hungry for goods. I definitely want to max out my granaries too to pump up population growth in here. Ooh, unemployed slave pop promotion and a minting threshold. Very nice. That means we could in theory mint a little bit more before we start getting hit with bad inflation. So it would be nice to build a royal court because that's going to give us plus 10% crown power. So we're going to get that underway. It will take a very long time to build that. It takes almost like an entire, nearly a year and a half to build. But 10% crown power is huge. It's a really big benefit. And we've basically finished up all of the previous age technology. So now it's time to move on to the age of Renaissance techs. And there's quite a few useful technologies in here. For example, scholarly treatise makes it cheaper to embrace institutions, which is really nice. Also, extra subject loyalty is really good. I think there's a really nice one for annexing subject somewhere in here. Cannot remember for the life of me. where it is. Here it is. Diplomatic annexation costs. So heading towards titles consolidation is really, really useful. In addition, that will lead to a cheaper cost of our court, which will save us a lot of money, and proximity costs. So we're going to basically rush down here to grab these, as these are going to have a lot of long-term advantages. And then moving on to nobility literature is going to get us max nobility literacy. Again, lots of benefits. And then extra legitimacy, huge, and courtly competition. So moving all the way down here, it's going to be extremely valuable because it means we're going to spend a lot less money on our cost of court. So pushing that direction, really, really good for our long-term gold supply. I also want to build my sergeantry because that's also going to provide crown power, a little bit of manpower as well. But the crown power is the big thing there. Crown power is a big consideration. Oh yeah, look at that. Already we've got 13% literacy, matching some of the other places in the world that we can see that have higher literacy. So it may only be in our capital that we have that level of literacy, but it will continue to climb as we improve it. In particular, if we could get our hands on the Chancery here, that's going to give us a boost to our literacy in this location, as well as a boost to the efficiency of our cabinet. And cabinet efficiency is nice because it basically makes all of these actions in here work faster. You can see right here, cabinet efficiency. I don't know how to tell, but basically it's a little boost to this. Okay, the year is 1360 in the Malian Empire. We are most of the way through. Oh, well, actually, I tell you a lie. We're about a third to 2/5 of the way through annexing Diafunu. Our population has generally increased. The tax base in our capital is up to 87, and we're extracting 23 gold worth of that. Right now, I would like to get rid of control over the monetary policy because that's hurting the maximum tax rate of the burghers. And I would like to start extracting more tax from them, as over time they will become a big and powerful part of my country. However, right now there's not really much we can do about that because we can't get rid of our inflation fast enough. Now we do have a possible council. Promoting urbanization is cool. So Audien would become a town, which is this place right here. It does make sturdy grains. And let's see, it is forest, so it has decent population building time. It's tropical, so it has good population capacity. It is flatland. One thing that I should consider is the rivers to the coast. And the reason we want to consider this is because later on in the game, you can kind of create a canal system using cities that will make it so that the proximity cost of your empire can be projected pretty deep and pretty far using river systems. So something we may want to consider is, where do our rivers go? And like the river that I'm seeing right now, you know, if we take Niani as an example, so you want to look for downstream rivers. So you can see downstream along a river, really useful. Downstream along a river is basically better than roads. So this right here, this would actually be a really good candidate for a canal city because it will project down this big river that we have here. So likely I'm going to follow this river system downstream with a bunch of cities. And you can see here, also downstream and also downstream. So going downstream a river, having your capital at the tip of a river and going downstream it is really valuable for projecting control. So that's definitely something we want to consider. I probably want to save up to convert this city. But mainly my goal right now is to reach our building capacity in Niani. Because if we hit our building capacity, it means we have concentrated as much political power into a single position on the map that we can. Because we get 100% of the political power in this area. And the way that I can demonstrate this is to show you a place where we don't have maximum control. And you can see low control lowers your crown power. And so that's something that we don't want. If we go here, so one of the ways that we can increase our crown power is by increasing our control. And so that's kind of part of the long-term game plan. Now, in terms of our parliament location, I'm going to go ahead and place it in the capital because this will give us centralization boosts. In terms of urbanization, it's not necessarily terrible to do urbanization. Bolstering the government is nice because of the legitimacy. This would save us a lot of money for 10 years. 20% crown power for 10 years isn't terrible. Getting an artist could be nice for our prestige. I do like the idea of promoting urbanization because 100% pop promotion speed while the issue is being debated is actually really strong. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. So we're promoting urbanization and we only have 26.33% support on this. So I'm going to lessen the levy obligations of the nobility. Now, this sucks because the noble levies, if we kind of show here from Old Mang Ding, they are actually, the noble levies are better, right? They're cavalry. And you can see they have 4 combat power, 5 combat speed, 2 initiative, whereas like the regular footmen, they're only 1 combat power, so and so. So it's actually a significant amount of our combat power that we're losing with the mailed knights. However, most of our combat power comes from our vassal swarm. So I think lessening the noble levies for 5 years to basically pass this law or to get a free city, I think is worth it. And then we can consider if we want to do one of the parliament requests in addition to maybe passing a few more of these. I think the percentages here are a little bit too low for me to push further, and I really want the city to go through, so I'm going to let the debate pass. I might click on one of these if I really feel the need later on. There is an open question as to is doing increasing control worth it anymore. Like maybe it would be better if I switch this guy over to changing social values or encouraging migration or even just settling more tribesmen, because we do have a significant number of tribesmen in Bure here. I think what I'm going to do is rather than increasing control, I'm going to tell him to, God, he is really good at increasing control and encouraging migration and developing provinces. Maybe it's not the worst thing to develop Bure. These are heavily underdeveloped provinces, so getting a little bit of development in here is probably good. Let me see. Okay, satisfaction is actually really low. Why is satisfaction really low in here? And it looks like it's mostly because people are the wrong religion. Well, that changes my plan here. Let's, instead of developing Bure, let's go ahead and convert this province, because Bure is only 10% Sunni. So I think converting this province will significantly help. Yes, our control here is relatively low, generally speaking, but we should get some pretty good conversion out of this, like 50 or so per month, which will add up nice and quickly. We get that religious unity, which will make the ulama a lot happier. You can see here, religious unity is getting us about, we're missing about 10, like another 4 or 5% from religious unity. So we'll get to work on that. Okay, we're going to start forcibly converting our tributaries to our religion. This will really piss them off and he will become a rebellious subject. That's fine. We can deal with 2 of these guys being heavily rebellious. Let's go ahead and also maybe work on supporting loyalists in here. So maybe we don't need to do that. I think what we can do instead is improve their opinion. We are improving their opinion. Okay, perfect. Yeah, I think they're going to be really, really, really annoyed, but it will drain away over time. So yeah, they're kind of pissed off at us, but that's fine. Well, actually, one of those guys has a huge army. Jesus. Joloff. It's got like a gigantic military. Yeah, they've got a huge population. That's fine. We'll let them be upset. It's fine. Actually, something to consider here is the skill of this guy who's converting is relatively low. It might be better to get this guy to convert a province while this guy focuses on doing the development of a province because he has maxed out skill there. So the province development, yeah, you can see he's going to get a 50% increase, which is really strong. Looks like smallpox has broken out in our country, which sucks. Let's have a look at that. I can't actually see the smallpox at the moment. Maybe it broke out somewhere up here to the north. It's fine. All right, the colonies are well underway over here. They'll almost be done soon, which is nice. We could educate our heir better. And personally speaking, I prefer administrative education. You have your 3 wives, which is perfect. You're pumping out bunches of kids. That's excellent. You can have marry another lowborn. Sounds like fun. 4 spouses, sounds good. Crank out those kids for me, buddy. And the reason that I like the administrative education power is because it provides crown power and building cost, which is very, very powerful. Diplomatic power is really good too, but I really prefer the crown power. High crown power cannot be underestimated. Speaking of crown power, actually, can I switch? Yeah, I could put Taban Kita here, who is one of my courtiers here. I could put him into one of these positions. So whatever his skills, he's a very average guy. And one of the factions that I really don't want to have a lot of power are the nobles. So they're getting like 8.3% extra power from this. So this is a way that I can disempower the nobles by switching this out. This should create a small swing. Like right now, nobles hold 290 political power and I hold 227. So if I switch this guy out with a guy on my seat, boom. Now we should see, if we let time pass, they have 286 political power and I hold 241. So it's a small adjustment, but it really does add up, like building upkeep costs, cheaper court. It adds up over time to do this. Another thing that we can do is even something that's actually not too bad for us to do, because he's relatively young, is we could make the head of cabinet, which would give his job an extra 25% efficiency. And then we would get the bonus of the crown head of cabinet getting us legitimacy, which would be really, really good. So that's something I would like to spend money on when we have the money. Okay, some of our diplomats are coming back from improving relations with our vassals. And there's urbanization. Audien just became a town, which is fantastic because towns are very useful for a variety of reasons, mostly due to the fact that they have buildings that can only be built there. So, and you get burgers, and burgers are good. I don't mind pissing off my nobles here, so I'm going to happily pee them off. So, boom. Now, let's make are you my heir? I don't know, but I would like to get you married if I could. We might have to marry you to a lowborner or two. It's fine. Let's create the crown head of cabinet position. That's going to shift the political power in our country as well. We have 243 versus 288. And now we have 280, which is a lot more. Really good. Really, really, really good. So that crown power is shifting in the right direction for us. We got the revoke privilege and embrace institution reductions. Brilliant. So we're waiting for our legitimacy to max out again before we can start to really spend. We could be taxing the nobles more if we gave them a privilege. Let's have a look at what kind of privileges they could have. I mean, feudal mercenary contracts, what sucks is the amount of power. Honestly, land rights isn't bad here. 5% tax efficiency. I should have put that one in a while ago. That's actually going to help us quite a bit. So I'll pop that in, and that'll eventually be very useful, because not only will it raise their happiness threshold, it will increase the efficiency of all the tax that we actually extract. So that's wonderful. Yeah, sure, it reinforces the nobility, and eventually you are going to want to dismantle the nobility so that the crown is the most powerful thing. It's fine. We will do an autocracy later. Awesome. We're having lots of kids. Beautiful. Let's have a look at the royal family. I wish there was like a filter here for people who are alive. So Tabon here, I'm going to get him to just marry one lowborn. He's my king's brother. And the idea here is that we create a big, healthy royal family that we can extract generals and rulers and cabinet members and stuff from. It's really, really useful to have a very healthy and big royal family, in my opinion. So we're still in the process of building. Let's see. A lot of my people are going to be upset. Oh, wow. This guy, or this lady here, Gundo Kita, she's a prodigy. She's going to get a huge amount of education power. So I'm trying to think about what we want to spend our money on next in terms of our goals. I definitely feel like it's still our main objective to develop the capital. What's the problem here? We're missing fine cloth. So let me go ahead and make... I believe it is spinner guilds. Let me see. What are they called? Tailors guilds. So our economy has a deficit of, you see in Niani, it's like really hard to figure out how to quickly see what the deficit is. Let me see. Yeah, we got a big deficit of fine cloth. Now, a significant amount of that deficit is due to us building a palace. So I think if we just added a few tailors guilds, we'll be fine. So I'm just going to build like 4 tailors guilds in there. And that'll be a lot of fine cloth pumping out of there. Okay, let's make sure that in all of our cities, we have our libraries, because they're going to give us a lot of literacy and cultural influence. So we're going to get those up. And we also want our marketplaces, because those are buildings that drive demand. Oh, lovely. One of our people came of age right as a position on the council opened up. So let's go ahead and pop him in there. Skadoosh. Adding another person to our cabinet from the crown is going to bump us up again on the political power front, which is absolutely fantastic for us. We also just finished our royal court, so we're going to get another 10% crown power, as well as some efficiency on our cabinet. So our crown power is getting up there. We're at 33%, which feels like a really nice level. Oh, another guy died. I think I have a guy coming of age soon. So you have a child. You're unmarried. Let's go ahead and marry a lowborn with you. Yes, that will cost us legitimacy, but that's fine. We have a city over here. It's a relatively small population, but I do think it is worth it to build a library. Probably not right now, but eventually. Okay, let's have a look. What are we missing in the Niani market? We're missing pottery, we're missing liquor, we're missing weapons, fine cloth. We will tackle the fruit once we have better RGO control. Just I think right now there's not really much point in that. We could, in theory, build some fruit orchards if we had like a really nice rural location. Let's have a look. Yeah, we could build a lot. I think I'm going to hold off on building the fruit. I think I'm okay with people having a hard time getting fruit. we'll sort that out later. Okay, now that I finished one library, I can start building another. It's hard to build multiple libraries at the same time because they put a lot of demand on your books. I'm probably going to grab myself, you know what I need in Manding is a bunch of scriptoriums. I need to crank out those books. So unfortunately, our king has gone a little bit crazy, so I'm going to give him military insanity. I hate it when that happens, when your king goes crazy, but it's fine. We'll handle it. Now, the nice thing about the scriptoriums is that they will provide a surplus of books in our economy and also an increase in the clergy. And clergy generally have really good literacy. You can see the literacy in Manding is already up to 16. It should continue to increase. Better loyalty of our subjects is great. It looks like the subjects that we force to convert are climbing up on their literacy front. Or not on their literacy, their loyalty front rather. Okay, perfect. We have our library and we have all of our marketplaces that will drive demand in here. What else do we want to build? We have our temple. We could build a madrasa because that does give max literacy for the clergy. It also increases the conversion speed locally. I don't think there's a lot of need for conversion, but it is nice. So, and the nice thing is it will also increase the amount of clergy in this location by 100, give them better legitimate or literacy, and also demand some goods. So that's actually really great. Now, one of the problems I have here, I think glass is actually quite expensive in my economy. It is. So I tell you what, let me come in here. Do we have a glass guild? We don't. So I'm going to go ahead and build the maximum number of glass guilds that I can. I'm going to subsidize them just so we can keep glass cheap in our economy. Ooh, nice. We can usurp a title. Absolutely usurp that title to move towards centralization. Boom. Okay, Makuto Krita became a adult. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grant her cabinet rights. I'll just leave her unmarried so that she can work on my cabinet. That did cost me a lot of legitimacy, but I don't give a damn. I just want my crown on the council because the crown on the council gives us lots of political power, and that's what we want. So as the scriptorium's finished, the price of books should start decreasing. Now, one thing I'm wondering is, our market access has improved significantly. I would like to get control of some of these markets and maybe delete them or do something with them. Let's run another council in Niyani. We could continue to expand the gravel road network, which is really important towards centralizing the state. So let's do that. I do like addressing festival ground complaints. Those feel good. Let's increase opinion because it's a cheap one. Aristocratic support will cost us legitimacy, which is a significant amount of money. I will address this and yeah, okay, we're pretty secure now and we can start building a few roads. One thing that I need to check is, have I made road construction? Yeah, road construction is at its lowest possible price. And so I'm going to prioritize, even though technically I could lower the speed of some of these roads based on what I build, I'm going to focus on building in the green areas because the green areas don't actually have roads yet. So let's go here and here. Slowly centralizing our state. Perfect. My subjects are now happier. They like me more. And we are slowly eliminating decentralization and becoming a centralized state. Our reliance on gold is rough for our inflation, but that's fine. Speaking of inflation, maybe it is worth it for us to get more gold over here in Seguiri. I mean, a single gold mine is worth nearly 4.32 base tax. Still have a decent number of building slots left in Niyani. What is the current clergy max literacy in this city? Their maximum literacy is only 42.48%. Let me check these other ones. Yeah, 42. So I do think it is worth it to build a madrasa to give them more max literacy, because a madrasa gives max literacy. Higher literacy means better average literacy. Better average literacy will boost our monthly research progress. Really, really valuable. Speaking of madrasas, that could be a great way for me to convert tribesmen, but also generally just can make sure that my population is converted to our religion, improving our religious unity, which will make the clerics happier. So I'm going to build a few madrasas. The nice thing is they also consume goods and provide more clerics. Okay, let's build a spy network in here so we can eventually declare war on these guys. I'm also going to go ahead and manage my subjects. Well, sorry, what I want to do is go to my actions and I want to enforce my religion on another person. So I'll go with Tenko Dogo first. Yatenga, no, we'll just do one this time. I'm trying to remember, what to do. Libraries give you some sort of cultural benefit, cultural influence. Yeah, we need a lot more cultural influence because cultural influence will help us annex vassals faster, believe it or not. Something that could definitely be worth it now to build in Niani is to get our granaries up, because these are going to create a lot of demand for masonry, which will, generally speaking, increase our GDP. We only have to pay for 20% of the cost minus our crown power ability. So we're only paying about 18% of the cost of the masonry, and then we're extracting a certain percentage of the masonry profits along the production chain. So think of building granaries as a sort of way to subsidize your economy, subsidize demand in your economy, stimulate population growth, and so on and so forth. They do take up a lot of building levels, which sucks. That's the one thing about them, and they're not like uber productive. I think it can be worth it. They stimulate the hell out of the economy. So I'll start building granaries and then masons to scoop up those resources as well. One of the nice things is actually the number of buildings that you have staffed will actually increase the population limit of a location. So that's something you want to consider when it comes to like building granaries. Huge advanced research. A diplomatic annexation cost minus 10%. That's going to shave a lot of time off of annexing this guy, which is really nice. We'll get them under control a lot sooner than we had otherwise planned. Perfect. I think we just finished colonizing some locations. So if we check our integration map mode, yeah, we're starting to get control of some of these locations up here. I think that means colonization is coming towards an end, which is fantastic. So with 7 granaries queued up, I would like to make sure we still produce lumber. Also, maxing out our masonry production here. Probably not necessary to max out our masonry production. It is useful. There's probably more productive things we could do, like the Jewelers Guild. This is a fantastic place for a Jewelers Guild. So I'll just queue up a few buildings here. Perfect. So Adrar is now finished, and it's going to become an integrated part of our country. And what's nice about that is we no longer need to maintain this colony, and so we can start thinking about, oh, where else do we want to colonize? Let's open up the colonial map mode. I'm trying to remember where that is. There it is. So we're already colonizing over here. We could colonize this if we want to move north through the Sahara. I think what it would be good for us to colonize near to home. Like, what about Sanufo here? It's only going to cost us like a little bit of cash. I think we'll be able to nail it. And we'll send population from Old Manding. So we're colonizing here. I think running 2 colonies at a time is a perfectly reasonable number. I think more than that, you're pushing your luck in terms of the costs. 2 colonies at a time. Perfectly happy to do that. Oh, we can call it jihad. So the Kingdom of Benin if we wanted to. I think we're going to hold off on that. Instead, we're just going to focus on studying the Islamic texts. Now let's have a look at the diplomacy map mode so we could see where we could maybe find new places to expand. You're a subject of Zazu. So I tell you what, let's build a spy network on Zazu and we can start tackling them. Let's improve our cultural opinions of Mossi culture. Sounds good. You can only do that once every 50 years. It's a very slow thing to improve cultural opinions. Let's siphon some income from some of these guys. Bambara makes crazy money. Let me just suction up that. 50 gold for a diplomat. Perfect. We just siphoned off a bunch of gold from our vassals. We're still in the process of building a massive city here. We've got a severe shortage of weapons that we need to take care of in here too. It looks like we're hungry for stone, so let's build a bunch of stone. Now I think stone is also able to be built using stone quarries. So I'll build a few of those too. We're just hungry for stone. We could give formal guilds to our burghers. I will. That sounds fine. Just increase their political power, move us towards plutocracy, which will fight against aristocracy. One of our guys is an idiot. Boo. Yes, so this is big. Minus 1% expected cost of court. That's going to significantly reduce the amount that we have to pay to maintain our legitimacy. That's going to save us a ton of money over the years. Huge advance. Let's have a look. Can we do some exploration here? Yeah, we can explore the Western Sahara from Ijil using Sakura Asan. So it'd be nice to know about this, because then we can start looking to maybe trade with North Africa / Europe, because there are going to be institutions that we want to get our hands on up there. Right, we have our library on the way in Orient. Let's grab our marketplaces as well, because this drives demand. It also gives us trade capacity. We're using most of our trade capacity as it stands. Okay, we're beginning the exploration of the Western Sahara, which is fantastic. We can run another parliament. Developing the interior is another fantastic one. We still want to be pushing this land. The higher we can get land, the better. There are a couple of other good choices, but if we can get land high enough, that proximity cost becomes massive. So let's develop the interior, and then we're gonna have to make some, unfortunately we're gonna have to take a stability hit and lose a bit of centralization to push this through. I think in the long run that could be worth it. Reducing opinion is basically free, and supporting spiritualist ideas is basically free as well. We wanna have a little bit of headroom so this passes. So boom. So we have a little bit of a deficit of masonry, which is not ideal. So I am gonna go ahead and look to max out masons in Niani. We're seeing the tax base is almost broken 100, which is lovely. You'll love to see that. It would make me happy to figure out a way to make the ulama more taxable. So let me see, is there a way that I can increase their happiness somehow? I mean, if I tax exempt them, of course. Expansion of zealotry isn't bad, +5. Ooh, max literacy actually is fantastic. I should have had this one a long time ago. Let's pop that. Max literacy for clergy is really good. We'll pop that too. I think I can pass one more. Ooh, religious administration for the stability buff. That's lovely. I won't do more than that though. That's fine, because we don't want the nobles to get too pissed off at us. But that should significantly increase the amount of tax we can extract from the ulama, which means on a percentage basis, we're going to be getting more of the tax out of our country, which means we can funnel more of the tax of our country into building it up, which is fantastic. It's such a different game. Let's see here. I think I would much prefer to move towards jurisprudence, because jurisprudence, well, mysticism makes the clergy happy, but so does jurisprudence. But jurisprudence gives us research and cabinet efficiency. So I like that. So I think I'm always going to be moving towards jurisprudence where I can. Okay, amazing. We got local infrastructure. So that's a 2.5% proximity cost reduction. And we have developed the interior. So that's like a 0.2% proximity cost reduction. If we go and check our proximity cost, you can see that nice green, like red means we just can't reach there, right? But the nice green color means we're getting there. And that as a consequence is having really high control. Anything above like 100 is obviously the best, but if you're above like 80%, that's great. But yeah, mostly we want to, because of the way that the layers of economic powers are stacked in this game, you want to focus on developing your main city. Like typically it's going to be where your capital is, and then if you're lucky, it's where your market capital is, because that's where you're going to be able to extract the highest percentage of the wealth from. Okay, so we're actually lacking marble. Let me have a look. We'll figure out how to get our hands on marble later. Okay, let's come in here. Let's create a casus belli. We're going to make them our tributary. Perfect. Then on Zazu, we're going to create a casus belli. So let's go ahead and turn Dakad Jalan into a city as part of our long-term strategy of building a canal along this river. It will destroy some of the rural buildings, but that's fine. It's not particularly terrible. I also want a caravan stop. What's great about the caravan stop is that it requires relatively little gold, but actually provides a huge amount of trade advantage and trade capacity. So we'll build a caravan stop. It would also be nice to get a bridge. So what's nice about the bridge is that it lowers the proximity cost of the location, allowing us to project our power throughout the country a little bit better. Again, you know, proximity cost is one of the most important aspects of the game. You can see bridges, lowering that is so useful. Now, in theory, we could also upgrade this to a city. We don't need to do that just yet. There's a lot of slaves here. Okay, so we have a severe lack of coal, which means we need to build charcoal kilns. This will create more demand for lumber. Lumber is produced in this location. Can I build a charcoal kiln here? It'd make me happy if I could. Yes, I can. And so by building the charcoal kiln here, it should, if I remember correctly, get a production efficiency boost. So we'll put a charcoal kiln here and we'll max it out, because the RGO is wood. And so anything that uses wood as a input will get a production efficiency boost. And the same will be true over here, though I think charcoal kilns might be rural only. Let me see. Yeah, you can only build them in rural locations. So that's important for us to keep in mind. Maximum literacy for nobles has increased. That's fantastic. Generally, literacy is starting to look better, in particular in our cities, which is fantastic. Okay, we've got a lot of constructions queued up in the capital, and this is what we want to see. We want to develop the capital as much as possible to the building limit, and then we want to look into where else we can develop I definitely want another marketplace. What other infrastructure buildings can I increase? Well, nothing right now. Okay, we have the slave raiding Casus Belli on Zazu. It says we're slightly stronger than them, so that could be a good thing to do, is to declare war on them. Let us get a humiliation, a bit of economic value out of them, weaken them, maybe even scoop up a few of their vassals or whatever. Let's raise our levies. So one of my daughters just came of age and we can marry someone. I'm gonna marry into Bambara because that is a country that we would like to take control of. Oh, they don't have a royal family. I would really like to marry into the royal family of somewhere. Okay, perfect. Dak Angelan is now a city. So if we let a month pass for the burghers to appear, oh well, I guess I'll fight the war before I kind of go ahead and do that. You'll love to see the population numbers bumping up from all the slave raiding that we're doing. Anyway, the burghers have appeared. So the first thing that's always good to grab is the library, because that's going to start pumping up the literacy in the location, which has a lot of downstream effects. Okay, perfect. Our heir has come of age. Can we arrange a royal marriage? Not right now. Let's marry a lowborn just to secure our lineage. And you know what? I might just marry a bunch of lowborns with him to make sure we have a really big family tree. Yes, it'll cost us some legitimacy. Oh well. Okay, let's humiliate Zanzu, take all their money, demand war reparations, release their vassal, liberate a country or two. That's extra annoying. Yeah, perfect. So we'll just keep fighting them for a few minutes while we try to basically just dismantle and weaken their empire. Maybe we can separate sue peace some of their allies for money, just like war reps and humiliation for prestige. I think that's absolutely worth it to knock people out of the war for prestige reasons and money. Money is prestige in a certain sense, and prestige is a currency. You know, I'll knock these guys out of the war next. Oh, perfect. So we got the map of the Western Sahara, and I definitely think on the colonial side of things, like I think we're still developing a colony here, but it's basically finished. So it could be worth it to set up another one soon to grab some of these locations. The idea being that we can create a sort of desert trade network up to the north with Foss. We definitely want to start trading with Foss. So I'll tell you what I will do. If I can create a trade route here, I'm trying to figure out how I import. I'm kind of learning. I haven't really played around with the market. Like the trading aspect of the game is something I do not fully understand very well. Like I don't really know, how do I trade with a specific market? Like I want to import from Fas. Does that mean I have to click on Fas and look at their goods? Is this like a trade range issue? Let me see. I think it might be a range issue. I'm not entirely sure, to be real with you. But I definitely want to get up to Morocco and start building a relationship with them. So I think I'll start improving opinion with Morocco because I want to start building trading posts and embassies and things in Morocco. I don't think I necessarily want to conquer Morocco. I think in terms of like political positioning, I think most of my empire is going to be focused around this area of the map. So really just like the North Africa stuff, like up here, this is really just about diplomacy. Like if I make friends with Morocco, that's great, because they're going to be an extremely useful ally. Now I might expand up through this and like get adjacent to them, but really what I want is that trade route. I want to be able to trade with them. That's far more important to me than anything else, because they're going to have access to goods and resources and stuff that I would not normally have access to, and that's going to be super useful in the long run. All right, let's go. All right, these guys should get knocked out of the war here once the occupation goes through. Is there a way to change how this army marches so that it doesn't lose quite as much? I don't think so. All right, let's sue for peace with these guys. I want your money. Well, I guess I could. No, I can't make you a vassal. I'm going to humiliate you, and I'm going to get your war reputation or war reparations. Thank you very much. Beautiful. Now let's have a look at Zazu. They're not quite ready to accept this. We just need a little bit more time and a little bit more damage to their ego. Huge. So we just got Muslim lineage, which is going to improve our legitimacy. That means we recover our legitimacy to maximum faster. And when we're at max, we need less money to invest. This is just, especially if you're a great power, this is just going to save us so much money with regards to investing into our court. Because right now we have to keep our legitimacy high if we're going to keep our empire together, right? Because if we let our legitimacy dip, we're going to start running into imperial problems, like serious ones, like collapse. It might sound crazy that I'm investing so much of my money into keeping my legitimacy high, but let me tell you, it is very important and unfortunate. I'm going to press the attach button to hopefully encourage my allies to go fight elsewhere, because I can handle this siege myself. Now, let's take a peek at our new city over here. Yeah, it looks like it's coming online. And we do have our library, but it's not employed yet. And that's partially because demography here is only slowly converting. We don't have the pops to run it just yet, so it'll take a little while. Okay, we just have one more fort to siege, and then we will be able to get the maximum benefit from this war, which makes me very happy. Gundo Kita has come of age. That is our daughter. Let's see, arrange a royal marriage, hopefully to an actual royal. There we go. Marry into the royal family of some other countries. Hopefully that will bear fruit down the line. So in a brand new city, the first thing you want to build are your libraries, and then definitely your marketplaces, because they consume useful resources and they drive consumption. Driving consumption means you're driving economics, right? You're generally speaking increasing the GDP of everything. And this is one of those line go up games. If we look at our tax base over the years, you can see it has been not like perfectly a straight line, but it's generally up, and there's been periods of stagnation and stuff depending on what I've been doing, but generally line has been going up. Now, in addition to your markets, in the early game, it's also not a bad idea to build your scriptoriums or even just your temples, because they give you +5 max control in the location, which allows you to capture a greater percentage of the value in a location. It also gives you more clergy, and in addition to the more clergy, they have a higher literacy, so just really good. And then the same concept for the madrasa, right? Religious unity, max literacy, more clergy. Hospitals, maybe less necessary. These are a pretty hefty drain on your economy, but they do have a really good thing here, which is disease resistance. That can be really useful throughout the game. It's kind of like, if you think some things grow your population, this prevents your population from decreasing, which is kind of as valuable, or at least is of a similar nature of value. So we've got all of our granaries built in Niani, or at least we're close to building them all, which has led to a pretty decent increase in the population growth, especially when you consider that it applies across the entire region. We're going to be building more granaries and caravan stops are great for trade capacity and trade advantage. So these are just things that we are going to want to get our hands on over time. That's this. Royal marriage from who? Sure. Okay, now that we've kind of done the damage to these guys, we're going to grab war reps. We're going to humiliate them. We're going to obliterate them. Give me all your money. Excellent. Then we're going to do the same for Zazu. But in addition to that, we're liberating a bunch of countries. So we just shreked Zazu, basically. We'll disband our levies. Zazu just got shreked. We can now declare war on Bonaman to make them into our tributary. Oh, I think I lost my Casus Belli because I took too long. Oh well, we'll build a spy network. It's fine. It took a little bit too long to get around to Bonaman, but it's okay. We dismantled other people's power in the region. We stole a bunch of their population through slave raiding, and we stole a bunch of their money through war reparations. So just constantly feeding our power level, which is great. We can run another parliament. We're going to run a parliament in Niani. The road network, again, really big deal. So we're going to run the road network. I think eating a bit of damage to our free subjects level is fine because it will recover. The way that this societal drift value works is that if it says currently towards this and changing this much towards this, basically the maximum drift is this times 100. So we can't drift any further towards free subjects, which means losing a bit of free subjects, making them a little bit happy with the serfdom, actually doesn't matter that much, and it will get them to support this road network building. And if this passes, we will get pushed towards centralization, and centralization is one of those really long-term, extremely powerful things for crown power and prox cost. And because we are now running the expanding the gravel road network edict, well, guess what we're going to do? We're going to expand our gravel road network a little bit. Oh, yes. Courtly competition, expected cost of court, another -1%. So this is going to be one of our biggest expenses due to the fact that we're going to be a great power, right? That expected cost of court really devours your ability like the amount of cash you have. It's sort of one of the penalties of being a great power is just how much money you have to spend into maintaining your opulence. And the fact that we now have multiple things reducing this, very useful. And the fact that we have multiple things pumping up our base legitimacy, meaning we have to invest less when we're at maximum, is even better. So just all around great stuff. Let's keep linking up road networks. I might be able to get one more road built before the time comes, kind of hoping. Our daughter has come of age. We will find a place for her. You know what? It's probably not a terrible idea to start building road networks into this area that I'm annexing. And it is cheaper, so let's do it. Now, tech-wise, let's go to the Age of Renaissance and have a look at the advances that are available to us within the Age of Renaissance. So let's see here, granting privileges, cheaper buildings, really strong here. I'm gonna go ahead and pick that up. Better food production is useful too. Ooh, max literacy for the clergy and the burghers, very nice. Let's pick up both of those. Super useful. Ooh, making it cheaper to found towns and cities could be really good. I'm gonna go ahead and grab formal city rights as well. So that's gonna keep us busy for a while. Looks like we're gonna grab cheaper privilege granting, easier no CB wars, cheaper buildings, bigger RGOs, food production, burgher literacy, clergy literacy into RGO size in towns and cities with cheaper city founding. And then we can kind of start thinking about this. So yeah, it is about the time of the game that we want to start thinking about, can we make contact with Europe? Because we're kind of missing some pretty dang important institutions that we need to get our hands on. So I'm wondering if Morocco would be willing to share maps with me. I could steal their maps. And you know what? I like that as an idea. So let's see if we can get a spy network in there to steal their maps. Stealing their maps will hopefully give me vision of Spain, and then I can start maybe stealing institutions from Spain. Perfect. We expanded the gravel road network. We're moving more towards a centralized state. There's not a whole lot of tribesmen that need to be settled here. We are slowly getting rid of the tribesmen. Well, I say getting rid of them. We're settling them. They become more productive from the perspective of the state. I would like to build the sofa barracks and the sofa stockades in my locations because they're really useful from a military point of view, particularly on the defensive if we do get attacked. But I don't necessarily know if that's what we need to be working on right now at this instance. Like, I'm not building anything in Niani, but do I want to save my money for something? I'm not sure. Okay, good news. Our cultural influence is starting to grow strong enough to actually overcome this. And if we continue to build cities and libraries, because that's where a lot of our cultural influence is coming from, that will not be an issue. Oh, okay, we crashed. Yeah, I tend to crash when I'm hovering over tooltips. It's like so weird. It's the only thing in EU5 that crashes me. Okay, we're back in. The hell was I doing? I completely forgot. I was trying to show you cultural influence. Yeah, we got cultural influence from libraries, basically. Not a huge amount right now, but that's one of the reasons you want libraries, is because they provide cultural influence. One of the other sources of cultural influence is from your prestige, innovative ideas. Mostly it's libraries that gives you cultural influence. Cultural tradition comes from works of art and your locations, I think, based on your population. Yeah, the average literacy of your nobles gives you cultural tradition. But we want lots and lots of cultural influence so that we can... It gives you power in the culture war, basically. It lets you annex people. A lot of benefits to having cultural influence, and libraries, they give you a lot of cultural influence. Speaking of libraries, we need to get one in this city, and we'll max out these marketplaces as well. Marketplaces consume jewelry. Speaking of jewelry, let's see, what's the demand? Yeah, we've got a bit of a surplus of gold right now, so let's build some jeweler guilds to use that up. So dyes are cheap. Paper is expensive and wood is expensive. So that tells me a little bit about what I need to be building. In particular, the Paper Makers Guild would be good, but really it's all about getting that wood. So let's go to lumber. See, in terms of RGOs, we've maxed out those. We do have one over here that we could build. It's in a vassal. I'd rather build wood inside my own country. We could build lumber mills, but they wouldn't be profitable because tools are expensive. So we need to make tools cheaper. Okay, let's pop in here and we will build a tooling guild. Tools Guild, perfect. I'm going to subsidize that and max it out. And tools being cheaper will be really useful. Kadi Kita, our daughter, has reached a higher level. Let's take the money, because money can be turned into all sorts of positive things. I'm going to make sure we max out some tools guilds here. That is going to require us to get some iron. So if I pop in here, we are about to annex this iron mine, so I'm willing to max it out a little bit, spend a bit of money in my vassal's territory to improve our access to iron, keeping our things profitable. It's cheaper to grant privileges, which is fantastic. One of my daughters is unmarried. Just start marrying royal family all over the place for prestige. This annexation will be done in about 10 years. Let's create a new casus belli on these guys. We want to make them a tributary. I think my vassals have mostly gotten over me forcibly converting them. So let's forcibly convert more of them. I want to enforce our religion on a couple more. Boom. You know what? Let's just enforce it on them all. Because it'd be really useful for them to start converting their population for us. If we go by religion's location, you can kind of see this sort of green color is Sunniism spreading. We want it to spread a little bit more. Okay, who do we want to be our enemy? I think we'll make Oyo our rival. All right, let's improve your opinion. Excellent. Yeah, we need more diplomats, so we'll have to chill for a while. We're waiting for those diplomats to come. Oh, another daughter has aged up. I would love to get a royal marriage with these guys if I could. I think they might be just out of our reach. Well, we'll see if we can get one with if we could start getting royal marriages with Morocco, that'd be great. I am building a spy network here. Let's see. Son has been born. Excellent. The royal line is healthy and strong. Now, coming into Niani, we have approximately 12 building levels left. And I think it would be nice to build the barracks and the stockade here. I think that does make sense. So we're going to build those up. Yeah, we're low on beeswax. Let's build those out. And I think I would like to max out the jewelers guilds, because the more levels of a building you have, it gets production efficiency boosts. You can see here, it gets a small production efficiency boost, which means it just is more productive, which is nice. I think I'll subsidize the glass guild because that's an important construction resource. Okay, we have a severe lack of coal. Okay, we have no coal RGOs, that's fine. In terms of buildings, we could build some charcoal kilns. Where do we have a lot of available workers? We have a lot of available workers here. Let's see, Tabon, you're woods, you're tropical, you're hilly, so you're probably not a good candidate to be a city eventually. You do have some tribesmen. Let's focus on making you some more charcoal kilns. We need that coal to make tools, to make weapons efficiently, that is. We can produce them out of stone, but you get a lot more if you use coal and tools. So that's going to be how we try to do it, I think. Let's see, we've got a little bit of a shortage. Working on it. Let's subsidize this lumber mill. We need so many tool guilds as well. Maybe that's what I should focus on. Bog iron smelters are a thing too. Yeah, production chains, man. How do they work? Now let's have a look at, oh, hello. Corrupt Sadir, which lowers our tax efficiency, or we can get Ulama privileges. You know what? I don't care about the Ulama privileges. The trade stuff is more important. Okay, so Garalo is woods, tropical, flat. So it is a pretty good city location, but maybe we want to keep it as is. We should subsidize this to make sure lumber is really cheap. I think the big problem right now is that tools are expensive, right? Let me see. Now the price of tools in Niani, which is our market, I wish it would filter automatically has presence. Yeah, if we look at Niani, the price is high. So we definitely just need to produce more tools right now. So that tells me, sort of understanding our production chains, I'm going to go ahead and subsidize this building. And I'm going to max it out. It's important enough to do that. We got to make wood more affordable. I'm also going to go to RGO building and probably mass expand my RGOs. I think one of our colonies just finished. If I go to the colonial map mode, yes. So I think one of the colonies we had running up here has finished. So let me see if I can't. They have a colonial charter going here. I'll focus on creating the colonial charter along the coast, I think. We're going to have to wait for a bit of cash before we can do that. So we can lose legitimacy to gain jurisprudence. We are moving towards mysticism, which sucks. It's a lot of legitimacy. I think I'll just lose it. It's fine. Yeah, it looks like Morocco is colonizing this area, which is great because now I only have to colonize here to touch them and get trade with them. It's the dream. So war with no casus belli cost has been reduced, meaning we can be more aggressive. My son or someone in my royal family has come of age. Useful to have a lot of royal characters. We can move towards plutocracy, which would be good. We do want to, disempower the nobles eventually. All right, let's start the colonial charter here, and we'll send the population from Old Manding. Boom. That will get us control over this whole area here. Perfect. I don't really fully understand how to trade very well. The trade system is just kind of opaque to me. Okay, our vassal has called us into a war. I'll let my vassal swarm handle that. It's just a small rebellion that they can they should be able to handle it themselves. And if they can't, well, you silly old fools. Okay, we have another casus belli on Bonoman. Let's go deal with that. The Faramasura. So we can unlock the Office of the Faramasuma estate privilege. Oh, now that's really cool. So it lowers our road building costs. It grants them aristocracy, happiness, and political power. Oh, we can unlock other things though. So we can go for the Farimasura, the Sankarsura. So this gives market attraction, rebel growth reduction. Okay, but it doesn't make them happier. We can grant them extensive privileges. We could move towards centralization and plutocracy. That would be powerful. I do like the idea of the cheaper roads. Trade efficiency, cheaper roads. This provides market attraction, rebel growth. I think the Farimasura is perfect, honestly. I mean, cheaper roads is insanely useful. Sure, it'll make the nobles harder to get rid of and yada yada blah blah blah. But it does mean that we'll be able to extract more tax from them, giving us, the crown, more power. I'm gonna declare war on Bonoman to make them my tributary, and I'm just gonna let my vassals handle it. They just deal with that. You see the vassal swarm moving out for me. Brilliant. Probably no longer need to be building a spy network here, although I have to wait for a diplomat to get rid of that because that's a bug that was introduced in this patch. Does Mecca want to improve our cultural view? Sure. We don't have enough spy network capacity to... Wait, why are you my rival? Don't be my rival. Dude, why did you declare me your rival, you silly old fool? You dummy. I was going to trade with you. Now I have to fucking kill you. All right, let's check the Niani market. Let's see what the market price difference is in here. Okay, sugar is expensive. Can we import sugar from anywhere? There's no surplus of sugar. Yeah, there's no sugar anywhere. There's no surplus, I think. Can't find any silver. That's okay. It's fine. Okay, I think my vassal swarm has effectively done their job. Let's make him our tributary. I'm also going to make them pay war reps. Beautiful. Welcome to the fold. Congratulations. You are now part of the Malian Empire, the extended Malian Empire that controls a significant chunk of Africa. We are very, very powerful. I don't like that these guys are like not happy with me. I was hoping to steal their maps. We will still work on stealing their maps. That's the plan. Open RGO builder, and I think I'm just going to mass expand to generally increase the economic power of my country. Oyo is my rival. We could do a religious war. Let's do a religious war on them. Centered on Mamprusi. Nice, cheaper buildings. That's huge. Developing our empire will be so much easier if our buildings are cheaper, because the most impactful way you have of building of shaping your empire is through buildings. Okay, Market Expansion Act, market regulations. Promoting the state religion isn't bad because we do get missionary zeal, which will increase our religious unity passively, which has a lot of downstream positive effects. Conducting a census isn't bad, but we would have to give a lot of concessions. Funding farming estates is not bad because it would allow us to massively expand farms at quite a discount. So let's fund farming estates, and then we'll use our money while the parliament is in session. They want me to change a policy. They want me to change Gabara. Well, right now I have favor the ruler, which gives me crown power. They want Gabara, which is not bad, but I definitely don't want to do that. Instead, I will address the Artisan Guild complaints and the local assemblies. Now, so I want to look at the RGO, and I want to look for farms. So this counts as farm. This counts as mining, logging. So we have a few things that count as farming, which means expanding these livestock locations should be relatively inexpensive. These sturdy grains, in addition, should be relatively inexpensive. I don't know if wild game counts as farming, no, it counts as hunting. We definitely have some rice that we could expand. That's going to be an efficient way for us to increase the access to goods and so on and so forth in our market. I'll do another round of building once the parliament is close to settling up, because the benefit we get from this is a free level in a farming estate in Bamako, which is over here, which is nice. Let's see, I can spend stability to gain money. It is a good time to get money because we're massively expanding farming in my country. I can lose some support for money, which is also brilliant. We are having inflation issues because of the amount of gold that we're minting. It's problematic. And now that the council debate is close to being over, I want to look for RGOs that are farming inside my country. So I activate farming. How do I make it so that it's inside my country? Let's say under the building limit, not fully expanded. So that's our filter. Just hold down shift while I expand. Oh no. Build all the RGOs. Perfect. So we funded some farming estates and we managed to really efficiently expand the amount of food that our country is producing, which is really, really nice, because those are going to have long-term downstream effects of making our population happy, because cheap food. I believe the price of food also increases your population growth. I can show you that actually. Oh, nice. Another person reached age. So if I go here and I look at our population growth, yeah, you can see if food is cheap, your population gets a growth boost. And the price of food is dependent on the food balance in your market. So if you have a big surplus of food, you'll have really cheap food, which will help with growth. You have leveled up. See, can we find you a nice husband? Perfect. 50-year-old man. Perfect for a fresh-faced 18-year-old. Do not question my decisions, for if I think too hard about them, I will regret them. So brilliantly, we now have a little bit more manpower. So we could start building a military. We also produce an absurd number of tools in here. Right there. But we're having some shortages of iron, which is a problem in our market. So let's see if we can get some bog iron smelters. Ooh, okay. Iron is going to be a tough one for us to get our hands on. Got it. So let's do this. Anywhere that produces iron inside my empire that I can build, I will spend money on it to try and increase the total amount of iron in my empire. Iron is very, very important for both tools and weaponry. One of our nephews has come of age. Let's marry a noble and a lowborn. You just keep knocking away there, buddy. That's your job. Okay, so we've got all the iron being built over here. These will eventually get employed. They don't have perfect access to our market, but that's fine. We just need as much iron as we can get. Another son has come of age. You get a royal marriage? Nope. You can have one wife. There you go. Cost me some legitimacy, but you need to have a wife. So I like the idea of disfavoring Sufis because it gets us research and legitimacy, which I'm a big fan of. So I'm going to go ahead and disfavor the Sufis. We've improved our relationship with the Moroccans. We have the spy network that we need to steal their stuff. So let's have a look. Where are the covert actions? Yeah, let's steal their maps of the Iberian. I want to find southern. You know what? We'll grab the Iberian west coast. Boom. And we'll keep building a spy network there so we can find more from them. Okay, let's declare war on Oyo. And we have a religious war. I'm going to raise all levies. I'm going to group them together. And because I have a ton of vassals, I don't actually have to micro this war very much. What I can do is I can group levies and I can just give them the general objective of like hunt enemy armies pretty much everywhere that we can. And then my vassals should take care of things, which is really nice. So we'll just hunt down the enemy armies to fight them and kill them. You can see that line going up, baby. It will continue to grow, especially as development in our capital like continues to swarm up. The amount of goods these guys are consuming now should be getting to like a relatively absurd level. If we check out their needs, like they're eating so many books, and we don't pay for consumption, which is fantastic. In fact, we tax consumption. We get money from it. Oh, we actually lost a fight. Incredible. Well, let me disable automation, enable attachment, and I will manage this fight myself. Oh, well, Morocco's having a bad time. Let's chat with Egypt. How do they feel about us? I'm going to start pumping up friendship with Egypt because maybe we can start trading, like getting beneficial trade relationships with them as well. Egypt is a country that's really hard to fight. They just have like really powerful military bonuses early game. Once you're past the early game, it's not so bad, but that early game time is just Really hard to deal with. Now, we are kind of similar in that we have really powerful Mandicalo cavalry and stuff. And yeah, our Mandicalos are like crazy good. They take less morale damage and less strength damage compared to regular horsemen. Our Mandicalo infantry and our Sofa infantrymen. But yeah, look at that. It's high initiative infantrymen with no downsides. Whereas normally, if you want high initiative, you come with the downsides of taking more damage. Initiative basically says, like, how quickly does this unit start fighting? Or how quickly does it start doing damage? Like, that's a really simplified way. Like, I could explain it in depth, but I don't think it's necessary. All right, let's enforce our religions. That's important to me. We could enforce our culture. I don't think that's necessary. Rather, I would just like to siphon income from places that make a lot of money. Oh, perfect. So we have settled all of the tribesmen in Wasulu. That's fantastic. We can start settling tribesmen elsewhere. I think that will be an important part of our strategy long term. There's not a lot of tribesmen left here we've got a lot of tribesmen left in Bure. So start settling those bad boys. It's not that tribesmen are bad. It's just that we could make a lot more use of peasants, basically, is why we do that. All right, let's sue for peace. So we have Ijesha. I don't care about that. What I want from you is, can I make you my vassal? And it looks like I can make them my vassal and steal a chunk of their money, which is perfect. Yeah, I'm going to remove Morocco as my rival because now I should be able to start building trade offices inside their territory, which will give me trade capacity and maritime presence. I'm going to max out my trade offices in their coastal cities here. This is a town, so the idea here is that this will give me trade power inside their market that I can use. I want to be friends with them because I have so much I need to focus on down here. I don't think I need enemies that are that far away. I don't think it's necessary. But yeah, beautifully, we have another vassal. And now we're at peace, so we can disband all of our levies. Now, one thing with regards to our subjects, why can't I make them, maybe they have to be loyal, and their liberty desire is still high from being forcibly converted, which is kind of understandable. We can't really make any more rivals right now, so that's fine. We'll leave that as it is. Niani has practically no building levels left. We have a severe shortage of tools. Jesus. Well, let's keep on producing more tools. We have a shortage of iron. We're maxed out on our RGOs as much as we can. Well, I guess over here we haven't. Yeah, tools are a real problem for us right now. And downstream of tools, iron's a real problem for us. I think I'm relatively happy to start investing into stability. Now, I could invest a full chunk of cash, but I think I'm going to start by investing like 10%. Now, let's say 20%. That's going to get us a nice boost of stability. Not a ridiculous amount, but it is going to help us get up on the stability front. But yeah, the hunger for tools is a serious issue. Let's see. We could build a mission. So this is a foreign building that's to be built in rural locations that will convert tribesmen to peasants. There's a decent number of tribesmen here, and it would also convert them to Sunniism. So, you know what? As part of our colonization strategy, we will make some missions. And this will help us to basically settle these lands. All right, beautiful. We have our trade offices here. Now, I'm not sure what kind of people are employed in here. I don't know. Do they employ my demographics? I think I employ locals. But basically, it's out of range. Our trade range is only 1,000. Okay. So that's the problem. We need more trade range. I think it does make sense to build caravan stops. So this can only be built in places that are cities, towns, or rural. I don't really understand what the restrictions on the caravan stop are, but they give a ton of trade capacity at the small cost of gold and salt. Trade advantage, trade capacity, so it's super worth it to build them. So we have missions set up here. So right now, as far as I can tell, no tribesmen are converting. It says even employed. Max literacy for the burghers. Yes, perfect. I don't even know if the missions do anything, to be honest with you. Ugh, we got discovered while building a spy network in Morocco. That's fine. Let's build one in you, and we'll build one inside Egypt as well, because we want to just try to steal their maps. I don't think they will trade maps with us. Oh, we can build more trade offices down here. Perfect. And this is actually good for them too, for us to have these trade offices, because I believe it will give them They get burgers out of it, basically, and some paper demand. So it's not so bad. So the real thing that I want to do with those trade routes, though, is to export. Yeah, it's just not in range. Okay. Well, importantly, we've basically finished building up our capital, Niani. There's a few things that we could do to add to it, right? We could add another mason. Probably be a good idea to get our caravan up, double check if we can build any markets or anything like that, because markets are buildings that drive a lot of value. But basically, this is about as much as we're going to be able to build up Niani for now. As the development goes, we could continue to build it up, by the way. But I think this is fine. We have a large, thriving economy here, a huge amount of tax base. And as the development continues to go, we're going to be able to get more building levels. It's going to get cheaper here. All sorts of great things are going to continue to happen. I think, personally, that we would be better off now shifting over focus to some of these side cities. Like, we could upgrade Diera Bakoro to a city if we continue to invest into it. It's almost at its building limit. We could at most add 2 buildings before we run into issues. Goodness, I really do need to find a way to get iron. I'm going to build bog iron smelters over here, and I'm going to see if I can subsidize them. I cannot, but that's not important. What's important is we need the bog iron. Oh, we can run another event here. So none of these are super good, except for develop the interior. That's, again, more development for Niani, more land, progress, excellence. So we're going to go ahead and run that again. We're going to delete some of these spiritual retreats, autonomy support. I don't want to do decentralization. Okay with communalism for now. Really, I want to try to focus on getting centralization. So we've plenty of parliament here. Now, while we're developing the interior, it is cheaper to build urban buildings. So it is a good time, if we have the spare cash, to build some urban buildings. We'll slap a few down in some of these cities that have spare room. Yeah, we've successfully urbanized Niani. There's 122,000 people living there, which is crazy. Okay, perfect. We've got about 20-ish spaces for buildings in here, give or take a little bit. So we can go ahead and crack down a few things. My scriptoriums aren't particularly profitable at the moment, so probably not necessary. We are still having promotion issues in here. We do have our maxed out granaries, which is excellent. Let's have a look. Fiber crop farms. What's the fiber price looking like? We have a little bit of a surplus, so we're not in a rush to get that up. I think I would rather build these nice urban buildings. We will subsidize the glass guild. Let's max out some distillers. What do you actually produce? You produce iron. So, this is a great place for a tools guild, because you will get high production efficiency. And probably similarly, a weaponsmith, right? Because you'll also get production efficiency there. No, you won't. Never mind. Leather is used for a lot of stuff. Let's have a look at some of our other urban locations. Have we built everything that we need in there? We could do it another marketplace over here. Let's get the caravan stop, the bridge, and the granaries looking good. Perfect. Beautiful. Continuing to develop the interior. What's really nice about developing that is the distance due to the development and the land in Niani is starting to get like crazy good. If we look at our proximity cost, like, it's beautiful to see that lovely green color, meaning we can exercise a lot of control. Now you start to get at those brown colors, it's not so good. But we haven't even really spent a lot of time building roads, mainly because if we don't have any roads to build, we're unlikely to get the gravel road network parliament thing. Okay, huge. This is a big moment for us. We just gained a bunch of cores because we annexed Diafanu. Now this will upset all of our subjects and all of our neighbors. However, you just came of age. Quick, let's arrange royal marriage. Marry a noble. See if we can find a young noble to boom. And so now we directly own this land, which means the proximity cost matters more. And we're going to want to start like projecting proximity up to here, because you can see already once we make it to Sandare, we're basically no proximity. So we're going to want to start building roads up here, probably around the time of the next parliament, if we can get the centralization. And then we need to start thinking about who we're going to annex next. I think it would be good for us to continue to annex sort of in this sort of radial fashion. We annex whoever we have the best chance of controlling. So I think Bambara here is a really good candidate for annexation. It'll take a long time, right? Like we're looking at, like a huge amount of time. That's actually it's going to be faster because we have dominant culture and high annexation rate. So it's going to be pretty fast considering. But yeah, we definitely want to control this land. We're only going to annex one vassal at a time, nice and slow, nice and steady, continue to expand the Malian Empire. We definitely want to build roads up into this new territory because it will help with the development of the empire. But for now, we can play it chill. We don't need to go straight to that. Let's take a quick peek at our market of Niani. Make sure all the trade is automated. And you can see sugar is expensive, but I don't think sugar is produced anywhere near us. Yeah, there's some sugar up here. So if we can get trading with these guys, we would be able to get sugar, but it's not produced down here. Iron is a big problem. We need so much iron. So we'll see what we can do in terms of pumping up iron, because our economy is so dependent on iron. Now, a backup plan for iron is stone, because there are secondary production capabilities that you can use stone to produce tools. It's not ideal. Similarly, you can use copper, but I think it is a reasonable thing to do, is to expand those to try and get a diverse portfolio of ways to produce tools, as tools are going to be quite literally one of the most important goods for managing our empire, and having high tool costs really puts a burden on your economy, really hurts your GDP, really hurts your base tax, really. So I suppose in the next episode, we're going to be, we're halfway through the age of the Renaissance, which is basically 1/8 of the game. We're going to focus on integrating these new territories, expanding our economy. There's also going to be a big focus on urbanizing and getting in touch with North Africa somehow. We'll figure it out. If it means I have to create a trade center somewhere up here to be able to trade with these guys, maybe I'll do some sort of coastal thing. I don't know yet exactly what my plan is. I think I would like to build some kind of coastal city somewhere. I'll figure out exactly where, how, when I want to do it. But I think having a coastal city to access these trade areas up here could be really, really useful to be able to, ripple trade down, because we just can't read fast right now, and we can't reach it. But yeah, I'm going to call that the end of the video, the end of this episode. In the next episode, we're going to finish up the Age of Renaissance. I want to thank you guys very much for watching. I love you all very much, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.